60th, 40th, 20th anniversary.
Oh, hello, everybody. Yeah, we're just inspecting one another's headgear. So I'm all fastened up. I'm like the mummy again this time. But Gary, as ever, is donning an incredible baseball cap.
Yeah. And I've got my Crouch End.
Yes.
Representing North London.
Yeah. The Crouch End Massive.
And I've also got on topic.
Bravo. That puts us all to shame.
There we go. You see, that was a Christmas gift. Oh, and you got the British, the Union Jack. Perfect.
I hope.
Brilliant.
Yes, we are awaiting everybody. We're waiting other shipmates to join the mission before we really get stuck in. Yes, we are. We're live already. This is what we do because it's quite casual on the Saturday. I mean, everybody, the people who are watching, you see, because they've all fallen out of the pub already, or they're watching in the pub, so it doesn't really matter what we say. So even now and again, I do sneak in the odd bollocks, and nobody notices. Particularly, if I don't say anything offensive straight away, I know the rabbi will. So I might as well say
there you go. I mean, my light on you. There you go.
There he is. We've got no hope. We've got no hope now.
In strangely optimistic mode about James Bond. Right?
We'll come to James Bond a little later on. We're going to come to James Bond a little later on. But you appear to have shorn some facial fungus since I last spoke. You've had a shave.
Easy way to lose 5 kilos. Oh, wonderful! I feel.
In case
the mist is going to stuff a pillow with it afterwards.
I'll tell you, she'll stop saying. But
in case Rabbi didn't see Keith's awesome mug. Keith, show Rabbi your awesome mug. Look at this mug.
One side is this.
Oh, that is really cool.
And on that side.
Keith Isles for the next Bond. You'll be a great Bond.
We're mug bros tonight.
Out to my friend Graham Williams, who's done some live streams on my channel. Graham Williams gave me that mug.
Not that great.
Oh, it's a lovely mug. Yeah. Actually, no. Okay, if I could fantasy cast you, Keith, it will be Dan Dare. I think you'll be an awesome Dan Dare. Isn't he? He's got like the right jaw. You do some special effects with your eyebrows.
You usually tell me.
Wouldn't it be great in the green outfit? You'll be a great Dan Dare.
He would be a great Dan Dare, but I can't tell you, Keith, how many voicemails I've had from the rabbi where he said, Dan, I've got a brilliant idea for a new Star Trek show. It stars Keith Isles.
Please do it. I would be. You know, that's one of my. I mean, that's like a lifetime dream would be to be at a Star Trek show.
Okay, no, fine.
As long as it's not Section 31. As long as it's not
Section 31.
That's terrible.
Sexual 31.
No. A great Star Trek show for you would be the Alternatives to Voyager they did in Star Trek books. The not sure what they call that.
New Voyages.
Where they were.
Peter David wrote them, didn't he? Called New Voyages.
Yeah, Peter David, and it was basically
Captain Calhoun, wasn't it?
Right, it replaced you
on the USS Excalibur.
You as Captain Calhoun. I don't think you're Captain Calhoun, but I think you'll be a good captain for that crew on that mission. Right, which is a bit
New Frontier.
Yeah.
Was
it
the USS Excalibur
collapsed into chaos?
Right? Was it the Excalibur? I think it was the USS.
I can't remember.
I think Keith should hold out for playing Blofeld's son.
You've got me wondering now.
Bond, though, wouldn't I? In the new continuity.
You've got me wondering now.
Sorry.
Well, do pocketbooks still have that line of Star Trek books? Any books? Because that was their thing for a long time, wasn't it? They still do it.
I mean, they still are published. They're not coming out once a month like in the peak days, but they come out like one every 2-3 months.
Yeah.
So I
can use my Rebecca Gold.
And there you go.
There he is.
There you go.
Got Chris on deck. I'm so glad that everybody's here. I think this is everybody now.
I was going to add to what Retro was saying. So they've brought back the books, sort of, and they've also, as of late last year, brought back the audiobooks. I think they put out 3.
Oh,
Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, they're no longer abridged, but I don't really care. They're like 9 hours.
Audible is doing a good job. Okay, Audible is really nailing.
Agreed.
If only they could acquire Big Finish's catalog, it'll be great. Big Finish is doing a bad job, but Audible is really they're stretching the market.
Well, Audible, that you can get shitloads. If you're an Amazon, oh god, it's almost strangely relevant. But if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber,
which everybody is,
you can actually get Audible do free audio dramas.
Yeah,
free of charge audio dramas.
Wait, you do?
Yeah,
and for people who people who have Amazon Music as well, Type 40 Doctor Who podcast on Amazon Music too. So get that. Make sure you follow and subscribe.
Well, okay, the obvious thumbnail is was it Jeff Bezos as Dr. Evil, doing this and go, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Right? That'll be the.
$1 million.
I know we can't wait to get started on that, but some stories are just too big to bury.
It's from Russia with next day delivery.
well, Star Trek kind of fell off the perch a few weeks ago. We got everything's sort of going wrong. All our cultural institutions are sort of falling and fading and crashing and burning. Some stories are just too big to bury. Really, the dream is over, guys. Profit has won out over tradition, over human rights. Some would say this story's just broken. Hooters is gone, guys. It's gone.
Oh. No.
What?
This is breaking news. Well, busting news. Hooters has gone.
Did they get cancelled?
Oh man.
Yeah, they're closing all stores, all outlets. But Hooters is gone. This is not a drill, guys. Hooters is gone.
I'm gutted. I'm devastated.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I'm reasonably sexist, and I always thought it was kind of out of order.
I see it right here. They're how did they go bankrupt? They have boobies.
I don't know.
They don't have any fucking money. That's why.
Well, that is true. Yes,
they have to imagine their own boobies now.
Apparently,
I've heard talk.
Well, I've heard talk, Chris, that Gen Z would rather stay home and wank into Pornhub than going out and spending
but it's 3D, and I don't care if I come off with
because they don't go into the real world. They're too fucking scared.
They used to they have some Hooters in Canada, and they had one near where I think that one closed a while ago, but we used to go there, and I must say they had great wings. Yeah, actually, they did. I must say that Hooters had great wings, and we just looked at our plates and didn't look at anything else. And I may have drank back then, possibly or possibly not. I may possibly or possibly have not gone through like 3 pitchers every time I was at Hooters, and we had a great time. God damn it, everything sucks.
Listen, honestly, I wouldn't go to Hooters because I would really feel like a perv. Same reason I had never been to a strip club, right? Because I'm like, I would feel like a bum. Now, having said that, I do regret never going to a strip club. I really genuinely.
Rabbi, I could say I haven't been there maybe in decades, but no.
Where Hooters or strip club?
Hooters, yes. We used to have it. It's closed now.
I'm upset I never had sex with a prostitute. I really
Rabbi,
am.
Our local strip club was.
I think always go to a professional.
See, you'd like this, Rabbi.
I can't do that now.
Our local strip club was called Snappers.
Snappers. Okay, that does not sound like a fun sexual experience. It's not. That's not what the rabbi's into. He's much more into,
Dan, did it explain why? I mean, was it financial? Is that why they?
No, this is reality.
Again,
what is their fiscal annual return?
We do it live, everybody. We do it live. This is busting news as we speak. So we'll give you more details when we get it. Of course we will. But the sad news is it's not a drill. All the rumors are true. Hooters is gone. So obviously our thoughts are with all the staff and anybody who's planning on making that pilgrimage, including the rabbi there. So that's just where we start.
That means they'll all be available to appear here on live streams, right?
So I got
get some of the girls.
Put our feelers out. Me and possibly Gary, because he's in the U.S., has actually been to Hooters.
There's one about a mile and a half from here.
Are you going to?
There used to be one in Coventry and one in Blackpool as well. So I've been to a couple of them in the past year, but the one in Coventry I think closed a little while ago.
And say goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah, so sad to say that rumors of the closure of Hooters are sadly true, everybody. So hopefully we've got some more stuff to get into that may bring smiles to faces, or maybe not. We're going to see as we get started here on this edition of the Spacebook Live. Thank you everybody who's dropping comments already. We'll get to those in a moment. Oh, we're first. Who first? How about him? We can trust this guy.
That man's eating a fork. Now he's eating a plate. Now he's going to have 3 shredded wheat.
Now, don't tell stories.
No, 2's quite enough for me, thank you.
With 100% whole wheat nourishment packed into shredded wheat, who can eat more than 2?
Yes, attempting re-entry, 100% raw as ever. It's the Spacebook Live, your weekly roundup of the week in geek for Saturday, the 22nd of February, 2025. It's a direct hit of out there entertainment to your vitals and other areas of importance on YouTube and on Rumble too. Oh. There we are. Yes, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Got the panel here too, I'm happy to say. Who's here? We've got Keith Isles from Home Media Minefield back on the show. I think it's the first time you've been on the show since we sort of revamped things and switched it up, switched it around and turned things inside out and back to front, isn't it? So welcome back, Keith.
Yeah, you've had me on a few times, but yeah, I mean...
it's still much the same jokes.
Never in this position.
We've got Gary Akers here as well, over on the right, on the far right. I was going to say there, but we're all pretty far right if you ask.
Yes.
If you ask the general consensus is how it goes. So yeah, we've got Keith, we've got Gary, we've got Chris, the mighty Bowles Trek there, along with who's this? Is that an officer of the law?
Well, in just a minute, we're going to have a message from Frank. Officer Nasty's here. So let's just see how things are going for Frank in the slammer. So he's cut. Oh, there we go. So Frank's having a bad time.
Yeah. I wonder if he's heard about Hooters yet.
That's the least of Frank's worries right now.
I'm gonna come get you.
They've gotten a hold of him. He's not having a good time in jail. He's very, very sad. So everybody. It used to be justice for Frank. Now it's just hashtag help Frank. Very, very, very bad things are being done to Frank in the slammer. So, Frank is he's here, but he's not going to be here for very long. They're just letting him out for a second to say hi. So everybody say hi to Frank.
Hi, Frank. It sounds like he's got it harder than Tommy Robinson at the moment either. Obviously,
Dan, he doesn't want to hear the name hard right now. You know what's been going on. He's with the ice.
What happened to Tommy Robinson?
He's in a bad way, mate. They're not looking after him, and he's apparently psychologically and physically he's not in a good way at all. And there's various sort of campaigns to raise awareness of this, of the fact that he's a political prisoner, and various other things that are going on there with that guy. Yes, it's not good. It's not good. Yes, so we've got lots of comments already. Thank you, everybody who's joined us at Mission Control this time. And a fair amount to talk about as well. I mean, catching up with you there, Keith, obviously from Home Media Minefield. So, yes, every time we speak to you, I always say that we come to you for the technical know-how, don't we? And whether it's sort of formats of the past or where things are going in the future as regards home media, that's very much your field, isn't it? For the people who haven't seen or heard you before.
Yeah. As I said, I have a channel, Home Media Minefield. It was started just because I've always been a home media collector, right back to DVDs and through Blu-rays into 4Ks and stuff.
I pay for VHS, baby.
Well, there you go. Yes, I also now is very young, had VHS, yes. But when DVD came out, it was always a bit of a nightmare because, different regions had different special features and they double dipped and did different releases. So it was a bit of a minefield, quite literally. So I thought, let's have a channel where we can sort of talk about the different formats, talk about the different versions available, do unboxings, talk about the technology, all of that sort of thing. Obviously, I've got the Bond 50th anniversary Blu-ray set behind me, which is
make great props.
Skyfall at the time. So yeah, but yeah.
And as ever, there are tags here if you want to go and follow Keith over on X. That's where you can find him. And there'll be a link to his YouTube channel in the description as well. So, yeah, it's great to have you back, Keith.
Yeah,
and I did want to ask...
More YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I don't do much on X. In fact, I very rarely even check in on it. So
it's a fun time. Oh, and speaking of physical media, Dan, Trash Factory, formerly known as Scream Factory, finally announced their 4K of Time Cop, which is over $50. I'm sure you're interested to hear what they've got for extras, right?
Yeah, genuinely.
Okay, so let me list them. Isn't that?
It's a shame because I actually like Time Cop, but yes, they should have extras on, definitely.
They continue to be let's just re-release everything that the competent people used to have, and let's just do 4Ks of things that the studios don't want to release. It's saving me a lot of money. So yeah, rant over. It's Keith, if you've missed out for a while, I'm very angry at Scream Factory. I think they're trash.
You should at least throw in Time Cop 2.
No,
that's free. No, leave that.
With Jason, is it Jason Scott Lee? Isn't it?
Yes.
I normally found the Blu-ray release of anything has the best extras. Has like all the old extras from DVDs amalgamated, and has the whatever new extras as well.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
It really is a minefield. I mean, I named the channel that for a reason. It is a minefield. Really
but to wait for a proper issue of a movie, because Time Cop was treated quite badly on DVD. And so when you see something like this arrive on Blu-ray finally, you assume it's going to get some dignity. But it sounds like perhaps not.
You know what their standard releases go for now? You know what the standard non-collector's edition releases go for now? They're like $60 in Canada.
But you can get 4K downloads of these movies for free. Like even if it's a fan upgrade. Fan upgrades are better than professional ones.
I want it on my shelf, but it's
I hear what you're saying.
Give me something.
Used to like making your own covers and printing out your own things.
Go old school, Rabbi. Go letraset labeling your tapes.
Oh yeah, no, I can my own cover.
A bit of kit. Never mind Blu-rays and 4Ks. I think a bit of kit like this would probably do us a lot better service. You ever seen one of these before, Keith? There's a bit of everything in there.
Sadly, I have. Yes, it's very cool, isn't it? You had all bases covered there. Yeah.
Well, I've never seen this before. So with the turntable in the bottom as well. So I wondered if this is like a home media center, isn't it? So you've got the cassette player, you've got the radio, you've got the turntable, and you've got a telly as well.
There you go. Yeah, very impressive. And that probably cost a small fortune back in the day.
I'm sure. About $2,000 at least.
Yeah, I think the bottom compartment.
The first Betamax, which was built into a massive cabinet with the Sony Trinitron, I think in like the 70s, I think it went for like $5,000. Wow. It was insane. Yeah. It looks really cool.
In the 70s. Yeah.
No, it had a Trinitron, which I think it was 20 inches. It had a Betamax, and actually, no, it didn't even have it. No, it was just the massive console. So only the very, very rich people could get it. So this was in 1976.
Does this have a
We're so spoiled today, aren't we? We're so spoiled today.
Listen, if you can tell my my 12-year-old self that you can get all of Doctor Who and all of Star Trek and all of Star Wars on your phone whenever you want it.
You'd also tell your 12-year-old self you need to get that because the stuff that they're producing now is so bad, right?
Yeah, I would say the world we live in is so insane that everything is filled with lesbians, but it's not super cool, right? You would think if you go tell your 1983 self you're going to be in a world full of lesbians, I'm like, well. This sounds pretty darn good. I think I could live with a lesbian version of reality. Is lesbian porn version of reality. Okay, so that's how it will be filtered through in my 13-year-old brain, right?
Well, here's the good thing that we can all look at. This is how I look at things because everything is total dog shit these days. Sorry, Dan, I said a naughty. But no, here's
I think that's the least of the worries.
But all those things that all those things that we enjoyed when we were young, they're still here. We can still enjoy them. So I'm very happy living in the past. I've been watching the real Ghostbusters on DVD, which on my Panasonic Blu-ray player looks awesome, even though they were terrible transfers. We got all the Star Trek. I don't even need streaming. Every show that I loved that I grew up with, I can just put in. And lately, I finally got into Blake 7. Oh, and a question before Dan goes into the scheduled stuff. Does anybody know about Blake 7 Season 2 on Blu-ray?
Keep watching. We'll go and check out. You want to go and check out the second edition of our Blake 7 live stream show, Teleport Now. That's over on the Type 40 channel, but it'll be here on the Spacebook channel from episode 3. So on Teleport Now Supreme a couple of weeks ago, myself and Keith and a couple of other friends and Blake 7 faithfuls, we talked a little bit about that. And I had a scoop, really, as much as I can say publicly about what's coming with season 2 of Blake 7.
Yay.
So head over to the Type 40 channel, get Teleport Now, and make sure you're subscribed here too if you're not already, because episodes of Teleport Now are going to be here on the Spacebook channel from now on as well. So yeah, that's an answer and a plug all rolled into one, Chris. Yeah.
Could you text just message me what the information is, because I've been looking at this like obsessively.
I shall.
We need a young Servalan series.
There you go. Yeah, but obviously that's the 70s and the 80s, and everything was there at the push of a button. If you didn't mind it taking up a bit more floor space, and you could. I mean, the thing about these sort of bits of kit is that now and again, there'd be that one button that you were never sure what it did, and you'd get brave and you'd hit it, wondering if it'd throw your tracking out or completely sort of send your radio wild. And you don't really have that sort of problem now, do you? You've just got different sorts of problems and different sorts of different sort of things that can pop up unexpectedly from when you do some pushing and some pulling. Yes, so we're live streaming this as ever. We're taking comments from the live chat too about the week in geek and popular culture. So, and you can join in and let us know what you think of everything we've been going on about so far. Something that we also mention quite regularly as well is the yearning for heroes again. Now, a lot of us are hoping that come July, things are going to turn around for heroism, generally speaking, Keith. This is where we've been with it. Mm-hmm. But of course, we do a lot of looking back to our old heroes and their best moments. Some of them, of course, though, are very much still around and not what they used to be. And I think if they stay in the public eye for too long, things can go very, very, very wrong. I don't know if anybody's seen the highlights from the highlights from the BAFTAs. Was there any highlights from the BAFTAs? Clips from the BAFTAs this week? Yeah. Anybody been following this? Because one particular sci-fi hero, well, actually two, come to think of it, but one particular veteran sci-fi hero kind of disgraced themselves at the BAFTAs. Can you guess what I'm talking about, Keith? You're aware of this?
Oh, yes.
yes. I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, he may well look forlorn, but we have we have the footage. Yes, so his finest moment was undoubtedly Star Wars back in 1977. I think it's never really topped that. And generations, I think, of kids have thrilled to his adventures, lightsaber in hand, going up against his dad in the finish, wasn't it? And the Empire there in the original Star Wars trilogy. He made his way back to the series eventually. Didn't go so well then, but things have sort of gone worse, you could say, in the last few days because, Mark Hamill, he's now 73 years of age, Luke Skywalker, and he suffers with a condition called TDS, Gary. Are you aware of this?
Oh, yes. There's way too many of my fellow Americans who suffer from that.
it seems to be a very much lessened compared to how it once was. But Mark Hamill's use of social media, I think if anybody needs to have their sort of social media account managed by maybe their children or by somebody at the management team, it's probably him. But he was at the BAFTAs. I think it was last Sunday. In all fairness to him, things have started pretty badly already. If anybody saw this, I think the less said about that and him, the better. When people think they can sing, it's sort of even worse than when they can't sing and simply try anyway. So there was that. I'm going to spare you that. But Mark Hamill did join the host of the BAFTAs up on stage there, David Tennant, and two sort of. I know.
Two twats.
What? He said, yeah, one of them's dressed like a pimp, and the other one's sort of dressed like a muppet.
The Joker. Why is he dressed like Two-Face? What's going on?
It's a good job we can laugh about it, isn't it? So yes, Mark Hamill, now 73 years of age, a sci-fi legend, also a respected voice artist as well, voice actor in the Batman animated show, playing the Joker, lots of other things like that. And he was there at the BAFTAs to present the prestigious Best Film Award when something unfortunate befell Mark.
Befell him.
What makes us
when
love
God
cinema
appeared,
so much that we're all gathered here to celebrate tonight? For me, it's that films create worlds so vivid and stories so powerful that we lose ourselves in them completely. They create immersive cinematic landscapes.
You're drunk, Mark.
That feel alive, whether they're set here in London.
Drunk. Yeah,
I think he is. He's slurring.
He doesn't miss a beat, though.
He does bring it back reasonably impressively, but it's the way his voice sort of wavers that's just so friggin' funny.
Take that, you woke twat.
I'm afraid that's what a lot of people were thinking.
I mean, he was hoping that they just focused on his face.
Wait, didn't his house just burn down too? Well, Mark, the gods do not like you, man.
Exactly. Maybe he should have been a godless heathen twat.
I like how you see him sort of snarling as he's trying to negotiate his junk.
Karma's a pain.
I'm sorry. Clear and proof of God's existence. I don't need. Right? There's no way you live in a random universe, right? And Mark Hamill's pants don't fall down while he's giving an award, right?
I remember being so sad when I figured out what his political leanings were. In fact, if you go back in my channel, there's a video called "Not You Too, Hamill." How everybody sucks.
And he got so bad with it, right? He actually killed Luke Skywalker. At one point in my fantasy world, I thought you could bring Star Wars back by doing a Luke Skywalker movie about his life, and you just put the other movies as they didn't happen or something.
Yeah.
Not like that, right? You can't rescue Luke Skywalker. He's too indelibly tied to Mark Hamill, who was the guy who appeared at the Biden press conference drunk out of his mind, being weird. like that, you can't come back from that. I mean, I guess you can if you try. If you went, oh, I really fucked up. Oh, man, I can't believe I did that. There's I don't know how I would react to it. But you can't really come back from that. I don't think you can bring Luke. I think he just killed his character, which is rare. Like George Takei, equally bonkers. I don't mind seeing him as Captain Sulu. Right, he hasn't made me he's not so objectionable. Maybe it's because he's funnier. He's like, oh my, right? Maybe that's funny.
Rabbi, I'm just waiting for the Joker to go woke next.
I'm sure.
The next movie needs to be called The Rise of Skywalker's Pants.
Who do we blame for this then? Do you think it was his tailor? Do you think it was just a bad fitting pair of strides?
God, I blame God. Okay, me, God.
No, I'm sure he's already blamed Trump.
I was going to say, is it his tailor? Is it Mark? Was he on the source? Or is it the president?
Well, I think they're all following Kamala's lead, and they're all somewhat inebriated 24 hours a day now.
You could be right. Yeah. So it wasn't it wasn't Mark Hamill's finest hour. I mean, he's been on stage before in similar events, and he managed to hold it together. If you remember, just about, his trousers stayed up there, and he was wearing a belt there, wasn't he? So that could be, that could be why.
He hasn't looked this bad since the Star Wars holiday special.
Oh, after he had his nose surgery. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, so what a moment in popular culture history. Mark Hamill loses his trousers and then pulls it back there for the final act. Let us know what you think of that. I think I was doing a live stream when somebody told me about this. It was Matt Pott said Mark Hamill's trousers were just falling down on live TV.
And I think this is, if you want like a perfect visual representation of what's happened to our heroes, that's it.
Well, can I just add something about some of the slides that you showed? It is relevant.
Yes.
Right? I was thinking this the other day about my heroes and the things that I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
And earlier you had like a slide with Superman on, right? And I was thinking about this. So I grew up obviously with Star Wars, Star Trek, Superman, Indiana Jones, and James Bond, right? Oh. And to be fair, most of those have been very badly managed and poor in recent years, right? However, one of the things I did want to flag, and I know I don't want to get us too off topic, but I have to say, I want to say it on this: Superman and Lois was fabulous, and that was a show where there was some creative respect for the source material and for the character. Yep. Okay. It had a wonderful fourth. I mean, I thought all the seasons were good. It was supposed to run for 7 seasons. It got cancelled because of James Gunn with this new film and the new direction for DC. And they did a concluding, I won't spoil it, but they did a finale to it. And it was fabulous. Honestly, I was so happy with it. I was like, wow, at last something.
I really got to watch it, right?
I loved it. I loved the first season. I wasn't able to stay with it for one reason or another. I think it was all over the maps schedule wise. I just couldn't keep track of it. And I didn't mean to lose it because I really enjoyed it. So if there's 4 seasons, I think what I may do, Rabbi, is wait for them to be some sort of nice big Blu-ray box set and just watch it all from the start.
Yeah, it is coming. The complete series is coming. I think I want to say it's 58 episodes or something like that.
It's amazing. It's amazing what a juggernaut that whole Arrowverse was in its heyday, and now it's all gone.
Yeah, it is all gone. But
I really like that Lois and Clark, that Superman Lois. It was different from. It was like a progression from the comic while respecting it. It was like a sequel to the comic, right?
That's right. It was like a sequel to Smallville, almost.
Exactly.
Where they were the parents now.
And I want to see Batwoman come back.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. Even though it was
Zachary, Emmanuel, what's her name?
What's this?
Shakiri.
Hot woman in it. Emmanuel.
Shakiri, the one who played Lana Lang.
Yeah. Oh my God, she's so hot.
Kristen Cruick. Kristen Cruick.
No,
I know who you were talking about. Vaugier, Emmanuel Vaugier. That was
Vorderhort, Emmanuel Vorderhort. She played Kara. She played like Supergirl.
Oh no, I'm mixing up. I'm mixing everybody up here, aren't I? Yes,
so the new Flash was actually good. Or the
I liked it mostly.
See, I actually got the first 3 seasons on Blu-ray several years ago for $10. I haven't watched them. Maybe I will.
Oh, the Flash series was great.
I even quite like the Flash movie, frankly.
But is it as good as Batwoman? Because that was the best thing ever.
We'll never know. oh, Batwoman. Sorry, not Batgirl. Yeah.
Or as we call him over here, Woke Batman. Some of my most successful videos.
Yeah.
The legends.
I did want to give, like I said, though, Superman and Lois a shout out because I thought that they handled it really respectfully, really creative, and respected the character. And gave it a proper
I feel terrible. I feel terrible that I didn't carry on watching it because I did really, really enjoy it. Like that show Resident Alien. I also didn't keep up with that, but I really enjoyed that too. It's as if there are too many shows sort of trying to grab my attention. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
For a second, I thought you were going to say Resident Evil
episode.
So far we've talked about Fallen, fallen heroes, busts, things going bust all over. But there is
fallen heroes eventually, aren't they?
But there is merriment to be had somewhere. I promise. Just keep watching, everybody, and keep the comments coming. Yes, we've talked about things going down, but I think now we can look at things popping up. Chris, I'm thinking about some things that pop.
You're going back to the
something.
Hooters.
Yeah, we're going back to Hooters.
Well, some things pop up when you least expect them, and at this point in the show, we always like to tell a cautionary tale, don't we, Chris? And this time it's something that, I mean, I wouldn't say this is something that could happen to everybody, but you never know, do you? And it's good to be prepared for any eventuality.
Well, yes, Dan, and I'm going to call this week's installment "How Not to Have Fun with Electricity," or maybe how to have fun with electricity if you're very depressed. So, Dan, without further ado, let's learn about let's have a lesson in electricity and what it can do to human flesh.
Brace yourselves, everybody. This is really something.
James was with our company for 10 years before this tragic accident.
Whoa. Accident? What are you talking about? Your company never fully trained me to deal with high voltage wires. And the way they were insulated, it was obvious someone wanted to get home in a hurry. What was I thinking? Not wearing all of my safety equipment.
Wow,
that's a pretty good one.
Yes. So this week we went to the barbecue. So as of always, this is why my country is the way it is, because
I had no idea how messed up it was. You show me a whole new world, and it's blown my mind. It's so messed up.
This one was kind of tame compared to.
Well, I try and even it out a little bit. With the punching and the death. But I've been doing this for how many months now? And so
a couple of months.
So people don't believe when they say we were barraged with this stuff. No, we were barraged with this stuff up until about 10 years ago. This stuff was constant. We just you actually, I think when you're young in Canada, you learn to fear commercial breaks because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We've sort of drifted from the David Lynch of a few weeks ago into George Romero territory, I feel.
One of your finest, Chris, to me is still the one woman who fell off the ladder into the glass display case.
That's right.
If you love that sort of stuff, check out Osgood Perkins' new film, The Monkey, based on the Stephen King story. There's a lot of these things are reminding me of some scenes in that.
Osgood Perkins, that can't be somebody's real name, can it?
Yeah, it's Anthony Perkins' son.
Oh, okay. Oh, very
he
good.
made Long Legs. You've heard of Long Legs?
Oh, yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah. It's his new film.
Yep.
That was really something. Thanks again, Chris. It was.
You finally watched it.
I'm talking about the PSA.
Oh, I thought you finally took my advice and checked out Long Legs on 4K.
I am gonna get Long Legs on 4K. It's on my list. I've got a cluster of films that I'm going to get on 4K. I still haven't bought a 4K movie, everybody, but I will at some point in the near future. Don't have nightmares, everybody. That was this week's PSA, as we like to bring you only the best there from across the world. Thanks for putting
what
that
I
one
have
onto
for
us,
what I have for next week will give you nightmares. That's all I'll say.
Next week we do it weekly, everybody, and we do it live on YouTube and Rumble. We're streaming now as ever. Please like the video; it helps more than you think. Loads of people watch this and don't like it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check you're still subscribed, and ding that cluster bell if you want to get the notifications. And why wouldn't you, with all this absolute gold? Previous shows and excellent discussions and reviews so far. There was our deep dive there on Star Trek Section 31, which I think we've recovered from by now. But
you reminded me.
I haven't.
Dan, I've been enjoying watching the YouTube videos about it because everybody says this is the worst thing ever. Aside from like maybe 5 shills, even people that were defending Star Trek cannot defend this. So rip Star Trek.
Yeah,
it was
started filming Academy season 2 yet?
Never seen
Probably.
season 1.
Don't know, don't care.
Oh God, I hope not. I just don't want to put this shit out anymore.
Well,
is anybody getting the Section 31 Steelbook, which is coming out?
No.
Yeah, that's like $60.
Oh, it is. Yeah, no, the Blu-ray and the Steelbook.
Well,
yeah, but
the thing is, I always try and find something good in all these things. I couldn't find anything good in Section 31 at all. Nothing about it was
Keith,
good.
as far as I can tell, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which is apparently even worse.
Oh my God.
It's an entire series of this, is definitely coming out. And it's you got to look at the cast photos. Like it's a PEI checklist.
God. I was so optimistic when I saw they had like Paul Giamatti in it and like
Holly Hunter.
Like all people I really are like, okay, well he's good, well she's good. Well, maybe. And then you see the cast photos and it's like the Muppet Babies. You're like, what the fuck is that?
I think make Star Trek go away. And anybody checking out Strange New Worlds to see if they have a musical sequel?
Oh God, please no.
Well, here's Rabbi. Here's what I've said before makes me really mad about that. Because last season was a dumpster fire of like Picard proportions, and then they did the season finale, which was awesome. So then I got mad because I'm like, okay, so you gave us one good episode that doesn't make up for the previous 9 episodes. This show is totally all over the damn place.
Yeah,
it was okay. I like Scotty in it.
No, I actually no. I thought it was like it was dark. It had action. It was interesting. I don't believe it had any wokeness, and there was no singing. Thank God. It was good. Like I can be honest.
I know, but it was after they murdered the series. I wasn't interested anymore.
Well, Rabbi. That's why I said I was mad because they did this after they ruined the series. And
they really did ruin that series. They had it right.
I think if you ask me, Dan, what is one of my biggest disappointments? I think it's 2023 Star Trek because we had Picard season 3. Yeah. I know I like a broken record. I keep saying this, but 2 years later, I'm still mad.
You're still
and then they followed up with, and I was so excited for Strange New Worlds because I genuinely, it had issues, but I liked season 1. And I kept thinking, okay, so they can go one of 2 ways with this. They can make it better or at least continue what they're doing and maybe tone down some of the characters, or they can go entirely the wrong way. Not only did they go the wrong way, they gave us a musical and a live action cartoon, literally.
Oh, yeah. Also badly judged.
It's difficult to imagine.
You know what the real problem with season 2 was? More than the silliness and the wokeness. Season 1 worked because I think it lent into what was television Star Trek was, which was episodic, which was Strange New Worlds each week, right? And that really was, sometimes they were good, sometimes they were bad, a little bit cringe, but they were generally speaking quite good. Season 2 did what I think is much more cinematic Trek, and it didn't really work. I think they deconstructed the character of the Doctor from being a really interesting guy who I want to see more of to being like this weird, dark, avenging.
They tried to make out that he'd got this like dark past. It just didn't.
I know. I like that. No, man, he was great before. What are you doing? It's like,
I think it was Alex Kurtzman taking revenge. Because
I liked him simply with the baggage of being the doting, tortured dad who had his professionalism and his sort of compulsion to do the best he could for his daughter. Sort of those 2 things at loggerheads. Now that, and in the second season, he was a completely different character, like some sort of mad secret agent.
Right. He was a great actor.
I don't.
And if you remember,
I don't know how these showrunners fail upwards. I just don't.
This is Alex Kurtzman because the 2 seasons that he had nothing to do with Picard season 3, but he had also had control wrestled from him for season 1 of Strange New Worlds because of the dumpster fire Discovery was turning into, which was why Strange New Worlds season 1 was watchable. And then he had wrestled control back by season 2, and it's.
Photographs and recordings, I think, is the answer to your question, Keith.
Yeah. There you go.
Could be right.
Dan, I sent you a Starfleet Academy photo in your chat, so I don't know if you're able to show that.
I can't do that I can't access things while I'm live streaming. No, no.
Let me see if I can do it. Hold on.
No, I cannot. No, I don't interrupt. I've got things going on now. So
it's a shame.
Yes,
it's pretty good. That's a shame.
Yeah, so we've got people to connect with over in the live chat before we go any further. Lots of comments so far. They're boldly going, so I think that we should connect with them and see what they've got to say about all of this so far.
I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. With Scotch's lifetime guarantee. Tape what you want both night and day. Re-record, not fade away. Re-record, not fade away.
If it's Scotch, it's guaranteed for life.
Yeah, old school is the only school, maybe the only school we can rely on here. Fortunately, we have some plucky shipmates here that have joined us in the live chat, dropping the truths that maybe we can't get our hands on or our lips around. Thank you, everybody. Garbage, yes, Garbage is into a double dipped. Are we talking about Hooters again? Yes, we. What mean again? Anybody think we're obsessed, Rabbi?
We never stop.
We have, what else have we got? We've got, lots of regulars turning up. That's Garbage's first message there. We've got Lucy Meow in the live chat too, who says simply hello, everyone. And we've got John Yulden checking in as well. He's out for his big birthday meal. Happy belated birthday to John Yulden, mate. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. We've got Michael Q in the live chat as well. Lord Thoth on duty. Thank you so much to Lord Thoth and all the moderators here on the Spacebook channel. We really do appreciate it. And it's Michael again. Good stuff. Let's see what else we've got. So we have, PD Rich too, and Stephen Braddock. Have I mentioned you, Stephen? There we are. Lots of familiar names and faces. Let's scroll down and see if we've got any pearls of wisdom too, given the fact that it's the pubs are open. Who knows? Yes, so on the subject of the Star Trek New Frontiers books, Keith, that you mentioned, according to PD Rich, the Ambassador class USS Excalibur was the vehicle there.
There you go.
And they replaced it with the Galaxy class later on. Oh,
interesting.
Cool.
The setup was so much notably better than Voyager, and I think made purposely so. Right, it was some quadrant of the galaxy where there's the government had fallen, and it was the name.
Ashley Judd's character was one of the characters in that series.
Not Angora.
Elizabeth Shelby was one of the characters.
That's right.
As well.
Right, the first officer.
It was like, yeah.
They deliberately went with Ashley Judd. They deliberately went with Ashley Judd's character, didn't they? Because they knew that by that time she was a movie star. They'd never get her back on the television.
Right.
Dr. Solar as well was in it, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Wasn't she guilt-ridden for murdering her lover or something?
That happens
in the midst of Ponfar. I think she had some really dark backstory, or maybe there's something else. But I think it's that. Right?
There's a spin-off series right there.
We have. I'm happy to say that we have brought some good to the world and to YouTube this evening. We're acting as a sort of support hub for people mourning the loss of Hooters, including Garbage, who says it's a double D shocker. Simply too bad, says Lord Thoth. Hooters have gone bust under Trump.
Don't blame Trump.
And PD Rich suggests that they could have Hooters should have become a streaming service.
Yes, there you go.
Instead, they've gone down the Blockbuster video route. They could have evolved with the times.
And we're going to need.
How are you going to stream the boobs? I don't understand.
We're going to need a valedictory thumbnail from Rabbi about the loss of Hooters.
Here's the thing, though. Because my only interaction with Hooters was at the States Fair. There was a beer tent sponsored by Hooters, and I pushed my way to the front. I was with my wife and kids to get a beer, right? I was like, boom, like encountered a Hooters girl like wearing a very, very tight top and nothing else. I was like, can I have a beer, please? Right, but it was
Fantastic. So, no, well, they could have moved with the times, as in sort of, okay, if people won't go to the outlets anymore, you take the Hooters to them, they go mobile, get them on those bikes. You've heard of Uber Eats, Boober Eats could be a thing. It could have brought that in.
Oh, you better copyright that, Dan.
Oh dear, that's oh wow.
Okay,
I like that.
You know who should have a
Uber
streaming
Eats.
service? X should have a streaming service, right? They should buy like
will eventually.
Oh, you hope Frank as well. Just a sec. How's Frank doing? Just a second. I'll check in.
There are lots of
we're doing bad.
There were lots of thoughts and hopes for Frank. That's one mad sad Frank. So Stephen Braddock.
Well, they dyed his hair purple.
People are just wishing him the best. He's going through somewhat of a crisis of identity, I think, isn't he?
No, that was forced upon him.
Crossed.
Amongst other things. So yeah, help Frank. So say bye to Frank. Yeah.
So next time we see Frank, he's going to be like that bloke from Full Metal Jacket, like who shoots himself halfway in the middle.
Yeah.
Who went on to be Kingpin, right? What's that guy's name? Great actor.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. He was great in both movies, right? It was also very good in a movie called The Cell. It was
That's right, with Jennifer Lopez.
Right. It
was he in that?
Asked him sing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was.
I like that film.
He vanished. Like
that was also Vince Vaughn in a non-comedic role.
I can't really remember anything about it. Lucy Meow says there's 100 TV stations, but no single good show or movie. I wouldn't go quite that far, but yeah, considering there's so much, sometimes I feel like there's too much. Because as I say, I thought Superman and Lois, Resident Evil, several of the shows I really enjoyed, I simply lost track of.
That time you did say Resident Evil.
Dexter Original Sin is great.
So I haven't seen anything past season 3 of the original Dexter. It's one of many shows that I've meant to go back to. I mean, that has to be 10 years. Put your pants up, Mark. Says PD Rich. Good advice any day.
Dexter's last season or the last two, whatever, where he was like, there was
there's spoilers.
Okay. Then before that, right? I think it was like the last official season before it went really weird. Right when I can't remember what was going on, but I kind of lost it by then for me. The last 2 seasons before they really changed the format.
Yeah, Clive Phillips left. He was the showrunner.
Oh, it shows. That really shows.
And he's back for the new, Original Sin. He's back as the showrunner. So it is very good. Very good.
You'd think Mark Hamill, these comments, you'd think Mark Hamill could have used the Force to keep his pants up.
No.
Yeah. You needed Yoda for that.
He didn't have Ray to help.
Common sense to keep his mouth shut.
There's not a huge amount of sympathy for Mark Hamill in the live chat here on YouTube.
Or have anything to do with Hamill. Like the Force has disowned him.
I hate to say the people really struggling with this.
What? If they gave me control of Star Wars, I would do something with Luke Skywalker, but I'll recast him with Sebastian Stan.
That would work. That would actually work.
Yeah, it really would, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be great?
Or Rabbi, would you want Sebastian Stan for Han Solo?
No, I would still. I like the casting of the Han Solo movie, but they did the wrong movie. Okay, this is a movie they should have done. It should have been called Kessel Run, right? It should have been like a Peck and Par, like a Western caper, like a gangster caper movie where they had like the youngest people of the crew.
Like Cannonball Run?
Yeah, like Cannonball Run. That'd be great.
Yeah, and that would have been like, and they have him mostly killed at the end, right? And he goes off with the Millennium Falcon, or him and Lando go off the Millennium Falcon.
But I do agree with you, Rabbi, or whoever it was who said it was the casting was fine. I've seen Aaron Reich in other movies. He's
great.
Fine.
He's good.
And of course, it has Amelia Clark.
Everything I've
we
seen
like
him in.
her.
Plus, you had Tandy Newton. Plus, you had Woody Harrelson, right? I mean, like, fantastic. Plus, you had Amelia Clark. Just a fantastic cast.
I love
right?
Amelia. I thought you were going to say Woody Allen. Then I thought, I don't remember him.
No, and plus you had Darth Maul. You had so much in it that was good, right? And it was still shit. Oh,
but again, poorly managed. It was poorly managed. You know.
Yes.
And if that's the serious version, I want to see what the original version was.
I would
Because remember,
love
there's an entirely different version of that movie because Ron Howard reshot the entire
Spider-Man
thing.
movies. Exactly. Yeah, I bet that's great. They should release that and Batgirl on streaming.
They won't.
I think you'll get watchers for Batgirl.
People are reeling in the live chat from this week's PSA, Chris. They live in a coffin to Stephen Braddock. And I think generally speaking, people enjoy the slots. What the F, says Michael Q.
Oh, yeah. So I still need to call you guys out. See, how do none of you know who Nostalgia Critic is?
Nostalgia Critic. You mentioned that last week, didn't you?
Okay, in the chat. Okay, people in the chat. Some of you must know who Nostalgia Critic is. He's been doing this since like 2008. He was canceled. He dabbled in wokeness for a year and then decided not to, then completely denounced wokeness, sort of. He made one of the worst videos ever made when they did The Wall. So we have one person who knows that, but okay. So here's what you're all gonna do tonight. So you're gonna go to the YouTubes, you're gonna look at Nostalgia Critic, but you're gonna watch early episodes. So say the first couple seasons. Don't go to the current stuff because it's not that good. But go to the early stuff because it's awesome. I am so
Darren.
Everybody.
Darren Bradley asks, do all Hooters bars have a liquor entrance?
Oh, but I'm...
I
see what you did there,
yes,
Darren.
Channel Awesome. That's the channel name. Avoid anything from 2015 and 2016 because that was the
you went woke.
Failed woke experiment. But yeah, and whatever you do, avoid the musical review of The Wall because it's the worst thing ever released on YouTube's.
That's right. Robin Leffler.
Robin Leffler was the chief engineer of the Excalibur as well.
That's Ashley Judd.
That's a character. Shelley Ingle asks, have you heard that Snyder, so Zack Snyder and James Gunn are teaming up? No, they had their photograph taken together. They're not teaming up.
I'll be fine with Zack Snyder doing something in the.
They worked together. They worked together. They worked together 20 years ago. They've known each other for years. They made that Dawn of the Dead remake together. So they're old friends.
Private chat.
Okay.
Dan, don't quash unsubstantiated internet rumors. That's half the fun.
Okay. Yes. Okay. We've had somebody else turn up as well. Hold on a second. I don't just throw this together, guys. Okay, come on. Where are we? Yes. So we've got more comments to get through. We'll bring on our other participants when we've got through the comments. Sorry, Shelley, we're not talking about Doctor Who. It's not a Doctor Who show. I hate to disappoint you, but Type 40 is back next week. I appreciate your interest and I appreciate the comments, but it's not a Doctor Who show.
Man, I'm just calling it now. Next Doctor Who could be what's the name? Juno Dawson, both starring in and head writer. Right? It could go that bad.
Don't encourage them. PD Rich says, Bowles Trek, I'm mates with Guru Larry Bundy. Who is that? The guy from Nostalgia Critic?
Which one was he again? He was... He's collaborated, I believe. I think. Just a sec. I'm looking this up. Who is that? He's at one point I think he was a guest. So yeah, there we go.
Would you like to see the Snyderverse completed as an animated feature, even using AI to animate it?
No, not interested.
I totally would. I'd love to see those last two next Justice League movie. I'd be fascinated.
Nobody loved Zack Snyder's Justice League more than me, but it's years ago. I'm happy with it.
I want to see the completed picture, right? It's just the same way about that show Raised by Wolves. I feel like robbed I didn't get through the last 2 seasons of it.
I'm happy with it living in my imagination with the benefit of hindsight. At the time, I was greatly stimulated by it, but I feel like we're now several years on. We're a whole culture change on as well. I'm far more excited about everything that's coming than sort of trying to cling on to something which, as much as I liked it, didn't really work for many people at the time. So, I feel... Yeah, I'm not going to... I think there's a lot of rewriting history going on political lines at the moment with this stuff by people who just hate James Gunn for whatever arbitrary reason they've come up with.
Wild hatred of James Gunn. I'd say
it's silly.
He just seems like a really nice person.
He's genuine. He's genuine in his regard for this, in who he's portraying himself to be now. And I think that people do change, people evolve, and you got to take him at face value. And I'm not saying that people should be drafted in to go and see Superman in July. If you don't want to see it, don't go. If you don't, if you don't want to see it, don't go and see the film. But don't. I just don't agree with boycotting stuff just out of allegiance to something that doesn't even exist anymore. I
thought Henry Cavill was great as Superman too. It's over. What do you want? You can't have what you want. I'm sorry. I would have liked to see more.
Yeah, no. I mean, we can't all have everything that we want, but I can give you Matt Pot. How about that? That's not a bad swap in, is it? For Henry Cavill, there he is, up with a lock, looking fabulous. Good to see you, mate. Good morning. Happy you're there in one piece.
How you doing?
So about Hooters.
Go ahead.
I'm lamenting. I am. Yes. I've been there. It was slightly disappointing, but. Anyway,
it's a dark day.
It is a dark day.
It's a dark day in a week of dark days, Matt. Anybody who saw the BAFTAs coverage there on several levels was a dark day for everyone involved. And there's been some more news that's broken too. We're going to get stuck into that right now. But yes, everybody who's commenting along, please keep them coming. Apart from talking about that show, we have a dedicated channel and set of shows surrounding that. This is concerning everything else. So knock yourself out with everything outside of the TARDIS by all means. Speaking of which.
Mr. Brosnan? In your house, please.
Yes.
Sorry to keep you. Traffic was a killer.
What's man?
Fabulous.
Oh, what an awesome James Bond that was. I'm sorry. I have to say, one of the best.
Yeah. Yes. And if that advert there doesn't make you smile, I don't know what will. Everything, the whole charm of James Bond in there, the entire appeal, I think, of decades worth of certainly the film incarnation of Ian Fleming's original character. It's all there in that terrific advert. And what a great sport Pierce Brosnan was. It's all kicking off. It's all blowing up. As regards James Bond, what a surprising week! Just when you think you've heard it all and seen it all regarding a franchise that's been on movie screens now for 63 years. Well, I say on for 63 years. Hasn't been anything for a few years, and before that there was a massive gap as well. Bond missing in action. Even M has no idea where he's been lately, but we have developments this week and something that I certainly didn't see coming. So long-time custodians of the 007 film series, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, have handed over creative control of the James Bond franchise to Amazon MGM. I thought this was absolutely jaw-dropping, sobering news. I couldn't quite believe it. I never thought that they would exit at all, really, particularly in this way. Apparently, Wilson and Broccoli are going to remain as co-owners of the franchise. But this was a huge shock to the system, coming just a couple of months after Barbara Broccoli referred to the staff, the people at Amazon during their negotiations as fucking idiots. So, so we have word James Bond will indeed return, just without them, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. I'm really sad to see them go. Where on earth do you start with a story like this, Keith? Did you ever think you'd see the day when Wilson and Broccoli would depart?
No, to be honest, I didn't. And this is the end of an era. It's quite sad. My initial reaction to it was, oh no, another franchise that's going to be destroyed. Because is this going to be akin to, Disney taking over Star Wars? We now obviously that Amazon are going to want to milk this for every cent they can. They paid, what was it, $8 billion or whatever for MGM, and obviously all its back catalogue. But I don't know. Today I've been reflecting on it, and I've literally watched the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 3 this morning, and really enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, that's Amazon MGM Studios, and that's actually being quite faithful to the source material of the character. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm really torn about this.
Okay,
really
Keith, I'll tell you exactly how you feel. Yeah. Right? There is reasonable okay, it's not unfeasible that this might not be bad news, right? It's not unfeasible that this might not be good. There's several factors. The first question is what's the name? The woman who runs Amazon. I can't remember her name.
Somebody is it Annie Saffron?
Yeah. So she's the one who commissioned Lord of the Rings and recommissioned it. I think she recommissions it because to not lose face. Now, is she a card-carrying ideologue member of the batshit nutty brigade, or is she somebody surfing social currents? There's a reasonable chance that she might want a success. The reason Kathleen Kennedy's never left, I believe, is she's waiting for a success that she can leave on. Go, see, look, I'm very successful.
Oh, she'll never leave. That's right.
Yeah, no, she'll never, because she's never going to have a success, because she'll never do the right thing. Maybe this person wants it. Okay, that's the first factor. If she wants to be successful, it's very easy, right? Like, yes, they do James Bond, right? That's number one. The second question is, why did Barbara Broccoli and Mike Wilson give up creative control? Now, you would have thought there's some nefarious daring do going on. Now, that's possible, right? They might go with strong arm somehow. I don't know, right? Maybe not. Maybe they're getting older and they were presented with a plan for James Bond that they liked and they were wooed. That could, I mean, they went from a position of like hating it. They were
Rabbi, they must have been pretty desperate because Barbara Broccoli isn't the kind of person.
Exactly.
She's not a studio boss who's always at various events shooting her mouth off. For her to say what she said about the people from Amazon a couple of months ago, she must have been pushed to the brink.
Well, apparently it's from them calling James Bond content. Now, here's the thing.
But something has happened, and although a lot of money has changed hands here, according to Deadline, who broke this story a couple of days ago, it's taken a big check, $1 billion to Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson for them to give over creative control, even though they're still they've gone to great lengths. And Amazon made another statement the day after to make it very clear that Broccoli and Wilson are still on board as co-owners, but they have signed over all creative control of where things go from here. $1 billion. It's hard not to say it in that kind of arch way. That's a huge amount of money.
No matter what the financial remuneration is, which might be $1 billion, I hear it, right? I still think I think it's more likely they were presented with a plan that they approved of. I think what they originally went in is wanting to do like a Marvel like cinematic universe, which I think would have been a dumb idea, right? But yeah, but there is very legitimate ways of milking the franchise. Look, you could do wouldn't you want to see an old James Bond series? Like,
well, Rabbi,
I would see that movie.
Rabbi, I'm as big a James Bond fan as you are. I've been a relatively active participant in the fandom here and there, nowhere near to the extent as with other things. But I've spent enough time with real, proper, hardcore Bond fans who fly over the world to the locations. These guys, they are really into it, and wear the watches. You know, I've spoken to those guys, and even the things that they were frustrated about were similar to people like us, the general movie fans, who just like, why is it taking 5 years in between films? But there was also a belief there too that there could be more, that there was potential there that could be unlocked. But I think the temptation, obviously, there's a considerable distance and a lot of stops on the way between maybe making a spin-off film or some sort of supporting satellite show or project and an entire cinematic universe of multiple characters and multiple scenarios.
You've got like the whole like Moneypenny QM team, right? Which you could totally do TV shows about.
There's avenues that you could possibly go down within those. How many books Ian Fleming wrote? Was it 12 novels and 4 short stories, something like that?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You know, you've got that crew. Like the last Moneypenny would have been great for a miniseries, and it would support the.
I mean, I think as long as they keep the actual James Bond movies as you know, tentpole movies at the cinema. I mean, this could be Amazon's way of trying to legitimately use this as a conduit to the cinema, because obviously they release some of their films, some of their content. Does have a small theatrical release, but it's going to be something as big and as world renowned as James Keith, Bond.
That's something that Netflix are doing as well. That's something Netflix are doing as well, isn't it? They're paying for pretty big stars like Ryan Reynolds to get them in movies which have those limited runs. I think Amazon have done that here and there, but nothing on that sort of scale. So this could be a way of them doing a similar thing via a different route.
Amazon should acquire a cinema chain, right? Make it free for Amazon subscribers to go and see the movies. They make all the money from concessions anyway.
Although they're making an add-on.
Rabbi, you could put your tickets, buy your snacks, do all sorts of things via the app that everybody's got already.
When there's a good new movie out, you can put out a classic movie from your MGM catalog.
No, right? they'd almost certainly make that an add-on, because one of the reasons why I hate Amazon is it's largely a subscription service, so you can pay for additional subscriptions for the many other things they have.
I guess, yes.
Yeah.
But I found this when I first heard about it a massive surprise, and I considered it a bit of a blow. Like most of us, I've grown up with James Bond. First James Bond was Roger Moore to me, and then the exciting time where Timothy Dalton took the role there. That was very much felt like a Bond for me, even though there was only 2 films. You know, it was just it's always been there, and it's always been that tentpole movie franchise, just as you described. And I think they have to keep it.
That's what it should be.
To keep it like that, ring fenced. I think, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what James Bond should be, and that's what it should only be. And I know I probably speak for most people, where we are sick of constant remakes. We are sick of reboots. We're sick of everything being turned into some. The idea of a James Bond series, even thinking about it, knowing what I've seen with everything else that's been made into a series, literally puts me to sleep. I think James Bond is one of those things that works best. Now, I agree there is at times, I think the longest so far is 6 years between movies. My math is bad.
Yeah,
but I think a movie every 2 years. I think every year would be a bit much. You'd get burnout. But James Bond, it's one of those things where it's
right. two to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But I think if you do a cinematic universe, which I am so sick to death of cinematic universes, I don't want to see James Bond spin-offs. I just want to see James Bond kicking ass in a 2 to 2.5 hour movie every 2 years, and it gives you something to look forward to. Whereas if you have a series, they'll have God knows how many spin-offs. And I have no interest in a recast M or Moneypenny series.
Even though they're elaborate, even though these films are elaborate in the locations, the technologies, the clothes, the things that they fill the screen with, they're out of the reach of most people's sort of bank balance and things like that. They're very extravagant films. They're also, the appeal of them is actually quite simple, in the way that James Bond is a secret agent, goes to these places, does those things, meets those people, lives that life. He lives an extreme life, but the price is the knowledge that it could end practically at any moment. Living on the edge, he could be taken out by, and that's why he lives the way that he does. It's a way that none of us, I think, even those of us who might fantasize about being James Bond, it's something that it's fun to dream about. But
that's why
it's extreme.
Well, that's why
that's the appeal, though. Wish fulfillment. That's the appeal. And those 25 movies, that's what sort of powered the majority of them over those 62, 63 years. I feel, all the way from Dr. No in 1962 up to No Time to Die. That was released in 2021 now, with Daniel Craig there in his final appearance of the five in the lead role. We kept waiting for that as well. I do think that it's not fair. Never mind the dedicated fandom. I think that the general public do want a new Bond film, ideally every 2 to 3 years. They're crying out for it.
We need a decent James Bond movie. So I think that last movie, thank God they didn't go with the original intention, and we all know what the original intention was. It was pretty clear at the time. I want a new James Bond movie, but I want it to be done properly.
Yeah.
I want it to be pre-Daniel Craig, even though, Casino Royale is, I think, one of the best movies. I think Daniel Craig's run is probably my least favorite James Bond run, because he is the least like James Bond. I think for me, it's, I grew up with Dalton and Pierce Brosnan.
It was a creative and evolutionary time at a very difficult time in popular films, I think, in popular culture for those kinds of movies. And I think they navigated it quite well. But just like I said a moment ago to you, Rabbi, about the Zack Snyder stuff, I do feel, as much as I loved all the Daniel Craig movies, even the last one to some extent I really enjoyed. But I do feel that was then.
Well, I mean, like
something new is needed.
The Daniel Craig era, that's most easy to say lives in its own bubble. Right, they can reinvent it, but they can reinvent it as James Bond being James Bond. We'll know from the casting.
Because even though they kind of,
yes.
I mean, I know the temptation is to fixate on, and we'll come to, because somebody's asked that question publicly, Matt. There's a temptation to sort of fixate on who's it going to be in the tuxedo, but we're so far away from that. I think that's a kind of almost like a blind alley.
I just had an awesome idea. Okay, picture this movie starring Pierce Brosnan as Islay, property of a lady. He goes on a mission for the Queen, right, and get to steal something from MI5, some incriminating evidence, and destroy it, right. I would love that movie, right?
Yeah. I would have loved that movie a few years ago. I think that the time is simply, it's like the Tarantino movie. I'd have loved that once upon a time, but I think that when Casino Royale came out, that's nearly just 20 years ago this year. That restart, even though it was a narrative restart, we were still living in a time where the digital age had started, but there were lots of analog things in existence in our day-to-day life. Now things are radically different, and James Bond was created. The character, never mind the movies are 60 odd years old. The character was created in the early 50s, was it, Keith? But 51,
53, I think it was 54. The first.
It's now the product of a whole other time. So I think to perhaps be at a point now where somebody can look at it kind of from the ground up, as long as they don't try and get too complicated with it, and accept the fact that it's a character that was created 70 years ago, and lean into some of the trappings of that and decide what Bond's world would be before they go anywhere near arriving at a leading man. As I understand it, they were auditioning actors last year for this. Broccoli and Wilson spoke about how they were looking at actors, and actors have spoken about it. So they were auditioning actors for this. Something drastically changed. That's what we've been led to believe. Yeah, him and several others, but he was the front. But clearly now all bets are off, and it's completely back to the drawing board now with this new. It's not even a deal, is it? It's an entire new regime.
I'm going to say, if fancy casting Tom Hiddleston, I would love to see him be Bond in a Roger Moore-esque way.
No, blind casting. Blind casting. I think it needs to be an unknown. I think they need to.
That'd be my preference.
Yeah, you're right. At one point I would have said Henry Cavill. Now I'm like, no. I think this is, and I could be wrong, but this is how I think they could save the franchise. One, an unknown actor. I think just a complete reset. And I would like it to take place in the 60s. I want it to be a historical piece because I think that's where it works best. But I don't want to know who the next James Bond is. And I want it to be not a Daniel Craig-like James Bond, maybe even not even a Pierce Brosnan-type James Bond, but going back to the more Sean Connery James Bonds, a little bit more traditional. But yeah, in terms of stunt casting, I can't remember the names, but the faces of some of the actors that have been proposed. No, I don't need like some 29-year-old Zoomer that looks like he couldn't pick up a piece of broccoli.
Of the actors that have been mentioned, Chris, there are some I like more than others, but I think the time is to sort of push that to the back and think more conceptually about what they could and will do with it.
I think there's no chance it's going to be.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
It could be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it needs to be a big budget event movie is what it needs to be. And Bond is basically, he is a gambling, hard drinking, womanizing assassin, basically. Yeah. It needs to be played by a white British heterosexual man.
Yes.
Right? Well said.
I didn't say heterosexual. Up until a few years ago, I didn't know if somebody was straight or not. I didn't know Simon Callow was gay.
Well, that's because most people, it wasn't all their identity.
Exactly.
But I think
didn't know he was gay.
I always felt that Luke Evans would make a terrific James Bond. Yeah. I only found out quite recently that the Welsh actor who played Dracula, I always felt that he'd be terrific as James Bond. I've only recently found out that he was gay, and
it doesn't matter that he's gay, though. It's the character. It's not. It's not the actor.
Yeah, he's got to be portrayed
gay. That's fine. But the character
is one aspect of your personality, but the problem is it becomes your entire personality. But I think another point that I need to make, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm disappointed it's Amazon. I think it needs to be a theatrical release because James Bond is theatrical.
Yes,
absolutely.
Not released on streaming at the same time, like an actual theatrical release, because they do own MGM. And I don't really want Amazon buying a theater because it'd just be another subscription they'd force you to buy. I know, just a traditional theatrical release.
Yeah, it needs to be theatrical that anybody can go and see. Basically, it needs to be available for everyone.
I was really concerned about this that they might drive it towards that kind of streaming model, Keith. I was concerned what that could mean for home media, of course, but I was concerned for what it would mean for a cinema experience. But having listened to what you said about and about where Netflix have been going to with having films in cinemas, I don't think that's on Amazon's mind at all. I think if they have come to some sort of arrangement with Broccoli and Wilson, it has been to keep this in cinemas as something special. I didn't realize that Amazon have been building up their studios for 17 years. So I've got in here, it says in 2008, they entered film production. They produced a film called The Stolen Child with 20th Century Fox, which didn't even get released in the finish. But they created Amazon Studios in 2010 for the sole purpose of producing and distributing TV shows, movies, and comics, online digital comics too. So this has all very gradually come together. And obviously they built up the streaming platform in the intervening years to compete with Netflix and all the others in the streaming war. But by May 2021, that's when they announced that they were going to be acquiring MGM. And that finalized about a year later, something like that. So all of these things, they take a long time to happen. And then you've got this rename of the whole operation as Amazon MGM Studios, which is separate but connected to Amazon Prime. So to me, this, whilst it's a shame to see these standards disappear, Keith, it's also stepping into the future as well. That nothing lasts forever, unfortunately.
Which is a good Bond title, by the way. But no, the thing is, I know, I know people are probably watching this, and some people are probably upset about what I just said about the character. But my view here is that if you make James Bond a family man, right? Suddenly, that's not James Bond. That's true. That's something else.
Absolutely right. That's what James Bond has.
We need to respect the source material. Like I said, I was watching Reacher this afternoon, and Reacher kills people and sleeps with women. Yeah, so there's no reason that Bond can't do that. Like he's always done.
They also did, by the way, the Jack Ryan series, which I haven't seen, but everybody likes. Right? They also do. They did Citadel, which was good at being camp, spy stuff. It was very, very camp. But I liked it. It was silly, and I liked it. Right? So they have form of doing good spy stuff. Exactly. I think they'll keep it cinematic.
Well, initially, as I say, Rabbi, I felt that this was a real blow. They go, oh no, Amazon, oh no, streaming, oh no, wokeness. And then I sat and really thought about it. And I thought, well, how much good stuff do Amazon actually make? And you know what? I think it's more of their stuff. Because obviously, when they do fail, they fail pretty spectacularly. The most expensive TV show ever made is The Rings of Power. So that's a huge failure. So that's a big thing to have on one side of the scale. But when you've got other shows on the other side, such as Reacher, just like Keith was mentioning a moment ago, not only that, the award-winning Fallout show, which everybody seems to love. I mean, the fan base for this. They were furious about it when Amazon got this. And as I understand it, everybody's really happy with this. I've started watching it. I'm finding it very enjoyable. I've got no knowledge of the franchise at all, but the devotees love it too. They also managed to please the Tom Clancy fans with the adaptations of the Jack Ryan series too. I've watched some of these. Very serious, very, very Tom Clancy. I've always find Tom Clancy stuff a little bit dull, a bit plodding, but the people who love his books love that stuff. And this series has been very popular, so popular they're turning this into a film as well, which they are going to have in theaters, Keith, just like you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And something that Bolstret was saying as well, which I can kind of, Barbara Broccoli and Cubby Broccoli, when he was alive, they always wanted, Bond to move forward with the times. That's why they were always contemporary. And obviously, it made, of course, filming and everything a lot easier if something's set contemporary as well. But the thing is, because we're in the 21st century now and technology is what it is, there is something to be said is if you took the character back to its roots and set it in the mid-50s, suddenly things like technology and misogyny and all of these things that date Bond, that date the character, wouldn't be a thing because of it would be a period piece. It would be a period piece.
Also, Keith, we get to have cool toys again as well, in theory.
Yeah.
All things are possible, and that kind of playfulness of Bond, Matt. I mean, Matt, what does Bond represent to you? And bear in mind how we've been speaking here conceptually. I mean, as I say, I started when I first heard this this news, I thought it was a real body blow. Oh no, what now? Now I'm really coming round to the idea, and I'm actually quite excited about it. How do you feel about it? And do you think it could possibly be a return to some of these old standards that, obviously, as movie making has evolved and as times have changed, maybe we could connect back with what Bond actually meant to us in the 70s and the 80s. Do you think there's any truth in that?
I fell out of love with Bond about 3 films back. It took me about 2 or 3 years to actually finally watch not Spectre. What was the one before Spectre? Skyfall, yeah. So I haven't even seen Spectre in that. So, but yeah, it just kind of lost me. I think it was a little bit too of the times.
Yeah. Exactly.
It became too much of the times, and I mean, I just sort of lost. It really lost what made it great, and like Keith said, it's mostly just girls and action, and that's what it's always been. It's. But to me, it was. I never really saw when I was a kid growing up.
The changes, Matt, the changes that you're talking about, they happened before the dreaded wokeness, didn't they? It's something greater than that. And so even though I enjoyed those movies, I'm always very understanding of people who simply didn't feel it, because I've never really been a massive fan of certain other kinds of thrillers and things. So if it's not for you, it's not for you, is it?
Yeah, if it's got a plodding plot.
Listen, I love Skyfall. I love Skyfall. It's one of the few times I see inverting expectations work. Right, never again. But for that one, it was all about inverting expectations. And Albert Finney at the end was supposed to be Sean Connery, obviously.
Right.
But I love that M was the Bond girl essentially in it. It was really bizarre. I thought the villain was fantastic. Yeah, I think that was a truly great Bond movie. I think the two afterwards.
From Matt's point of view, though, Rabbi, those films did sacrifice a sort of playfulness, didn't they?
Oh yeah, no, they're going completely different, and I think they should head into the Kingsman-like playfulness, right? Again, I would love to go back into that, make it lean into a more like Roger Moore-esque era, more optimistic, a nicer place.
Well,
right?
I think
that's where people are going to want to be.
Well, I think the contemporary Bond, I think it worked up until Daniel Craig. I think it actually worked really well in the 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, I think Die Another Day or whatever. No, what was it? No Time to Die. I think being contemporary is what killed that. It was originally 2019, then a 2021 film. It was just catastrophic and unwatchable and has current year written all over it.
We have to acknowledge. I think we have to acknowledge that film still made a shit ton of money.
Oh, it's still a James Bond. Although to be fair, I think most people that saw it, or everybody that I know saw it, was absolutely appalled by the way they finished it. And my dad is I said this before. He grew up with James Bond. He'd seen every film but that one in the theater. Because it was during the whole thing that occurred. But I bought him the 4K and I warned him, you're not going to well, it can't be that bad. And he was not happy.
But they ended it by saying James Bond will return. Yeah, but they were very insistent on ending it that way.
It's weird, actually. My feelings then were very much what they're like right now. Is that film I was really torn by. And I'm really torn by this news. I'm just trying to think optimistically about how this could be a good thing. It could work.
Amazon have an increasingly impressive track record for making this kind of stuff, and because they've been toying around. The Rabbi mentioned Citadel. They've been kind of turning this into a franchise. There's 2 shows, I think, now, and there's one-off movies as well with Richard Madden. Fantastic, actually. He'd be good. But I'm trying to stop myself from doing the fantasy casting there. So there's that, and then there's the fact that
whatever her name is.
Oh, I adore her. Great big jugs as well.
Patrick Stewart. There you go.
But so Citadel is another thing that they've been toying with, and that's got a similar kind of appeal to Bond. They also had a Bourne Identity spin-off show called Treadstone years ago, which is a kind of proto version as well. Gary, Amazon also make probably the biggest non-fiction show on streaming in Clarkson's Farm. So the idea that just because it's going to Amazon, that this is the end of the world and it will be shit and it will be woke. I'm not necessarily seeing any markers of that. When I take a few steps back and look at Amazon's output, it's actually far more varied than Netflix.
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson, actually, now that you mention it, Dan, I mean, he would be a good M. To follow up with something that Keith said, I'm actually, and you ran through all the slides. Look at how many competitors in the marketplace there are. We have Jack Ryan, Reacher, Citadel, all of these now. So I'm with Keith. I think you have to embrace not only what would benefit Bond most as a character, but which would make him stand out, which is make it a period piece in the 60s, which that would instantly make it stand out from all of these other competitors. And it would be truer to his character. I actually also want to mention that for me, the thing that was surprising about this whole thing is just the radical U-turn of Barbara Broccoli's attitude. Like you said, Dan, 3 weeks ago, they were a bunch of effing idiots, and now they basically hand over all creative control. I'm wondering whether Amazon, after she makes this blatant kind of public comment, if that comment was the catalyst for Amazon saying, look, we are never going to reach agreement here unless we do something drastic. So basically then they open up, Scrooge McDuck's vault, and give her the key.
There was clearly a stalemate.
Yeah, it was a stalemate, and that public comment from her was the proof of it. So they probably thought we need to do something, all out. Let's just give them $1 billion to get the creative control. I bet you that was, that might have been the impetus for it.
I still think they wouldn't have signed off on anything that they weren't comfortable with. I really don't. I think
I don't either, because that name Broccoli is still synonymous and probably always will be synonymous with Bond.
Yeah, and they're rich forever. It's there's no financial incentive for it. $1 billion is nice, but you're rich already, right?
I do have to say,
with a plan.
I do have to say,
I was
just going to say really quickly, if Amazon is going to use this as an IP farm, which I hope obviously is all of us don't, I do want to see like an office type sitcom that's set in Q's Gadget Lab. I think they could probably get a lot of mileage out of that. I also would like to see like a DIY show that's built around like how to build your own secret base in a volcano. Yeah. I think, maybe they could get some mileage out of that.
Bring John Cleese back. I would watch that.
The thing is with this is of course, Amazon are going to want to milk this for all they can, of course, right? Because that's they're a corporation. That's what they're going to do, right? However, I think the key thing is whoever they get as the main creative producer,
lead,
okay, it is going to be the key thing, because how this is managed is going to be really important. And I kind of get it. Michael G. Wilson is 83 years old, and Barbara, I think, is in her.
Keith, I hadn't realised that until I read all this. I didn't realise they were as old as they were.
Yeah, Barbara Broccoli's like 64, and Michael G. Wilson's like 83 or something. And the thing is, Michael G. Wilson, he said that he wants to retire and focus on art and charity. Good for him. I mean, he's done a huge amount for this franchise for the best part of his life, And
he's been very good at it as well. We owe him a real debt.
And Barbara's got other projects, that she wants to do. I mean, she has produced other movies over the years as well as Bond. And I mean, hopefully they've signed off. I would hope that they'll get some say in who will be the custodian if they're not going.
Do you think it has to be somebody high profile, or like a Matthew Vaughn, or a or Christopher Nolan, or can they go to perhaps the corners a little?
I don't know.
Would be great.
I mean, it needs to be somebody. The important thing is, and it's the thing with all of these franchises, right? And the word franchise, but all of this stuff, right? Is it needs to be somebody that respects the source material.
Yes. Okay,
that is the absolute
respects and love.
You have to respect the character.
Okay. Imagine Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat producing James Bond.
No.
I think they really understand.
Well, they did a good job on Sherlock, to be fair.
I think they really understand what it is and the core essence of it. By the way, the only way I think you're seeing a period Bond, which I would like to as well, is I think a prestige miniseries on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Right. And you could do like one a year or one every couple of years. But I think that way you would, when it's like a very faithful adaptation of the novel. Right, and you have like a Noel Cowell S Bond, right? It's like
I think we'll have to do that thing. We'll have to do some sort of dedicated show. We've been talking about it, haven't we, Rabbi? Where we each people who are interested, who want to participate, and come in and kind of pitch their Bond show or their Bond film or something like that. But yeah, people like Matthew Vaughn, people like Christopher Nolan. That's just two of. There's probably a good dozen. There's probably a good dozen big creative figures, mostly men. They're usually in their 40s and 50s, so it's not the most wide variety you could say of people, but are in key positions now where they're self-confessed Bond fans, addicts, lovers, however you want to phrase it.
You know, they have to understand
who could do
landscape.
this. But it's being able and part of understanding the landscape, Rabbi, is I feel to be willing to kind of push aside the rest of your career for something like this for an extended period of time.
Yes, exactly what you got to do.
5 to 10, in the way that James Gunn appears to be doing at DC. And that's even though I don't necessarily want Bond to become a cinematic universe, but I think that somebody has to have that kind of eye for the detail, heart for the world and the character,
and
to be unapologetic. To be an unapologetic advocate for everything that Ian Fleming's Bond was, that Keith so beautifully summarized earlier on.
Yeah,
but he's also got to understand the landscape, the media landscape we live in. He's got to understand the use of streaming and of cinema and the difference between the two, and utilize their strengths. Right, there's a lot there they can do.
It's got to be about. It has to be about telling stories and not all these other agendas around stuff, because that's what that's what this is where all these awful creative decisions get made when it takes away from the character and the story and what the heart of it is about. We've seen it with other franchises that we've gone over before,
almost all of them.
Yeah, and it just needs to be treated with some respect. It really does,
And I think Michael G. Wilson needs to use part of his $1 billion to help get Hooters out of bankruptcy.
Save Hooters and don't get Bond wrong. That's what we're saying here on the Spacebook Live.
I think James Bond might have just missed the era of woke. Like the culture's just shifted in the nick of time. Will it catch Bond? Maybe.
Well, no. It did catch Bond for one movie, unfortunately.
No. Will the swing the other way catch Bond now?
Well, it would be nice, but it remains to be seen. But the one thing that I am adamant about, it does not like there are some films there are some movie franchises that just don't translate well to being TV series. Just the same as there's some TV series that don't translate to film, like Star Trek or the X-Files for the most part aside from say maybe 4 classic series Star Trek films, that franchise hasn't made the transition to film well, to put it mildly. I think it's the same thing with James Bond. I don't think this is I think if you turn this into a TV series, it becomes a completely different animal, which is using the James Bond name.
Exactly. But when you have a character like M, played by what's his name, Nazi bloke from Schindler's List,
Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes, right? Because that character is played so well, and there's so much depth and layer to that character. A good writer could write a good narrative around it that will be compelling.
I would still say no. Just make it an entirely different thing altogether. I think as soon as you start making,
we want to milk the IP. We want to milk the IP.
That's why I'm concerned about Amazon's ownership, because I think as soon as you start making franchise or making spin-offs, I think you diminish the franchise as a whole, at least in a case like this. So I'm like, you could, if they want to do that, we'll just make it a completely different character unrelated to James Bond. I think that's the main concern that everybody has with Amazon owning James Bond and now owning creative control, is this will become a money milking machine, and we could see done to James Bond what's been done to
Those two words, Chris. Those two words, Chris, are terrifying. Creative and control put together like that.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I know. We know what's going on there. But say, here's
a shiver up my spine.
Well, here's what could happen. Take a wokeness aside. Look what they've done to Star Wars.
Because woke is nearly dead.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what they've done is they've completely diminished it, even without the agenda, with all the terrible TV series. But even if they weren't terrible, there's just so many. You get
it's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding of the prestige of the brand, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. And Star Wars, had it just remained a movie series, take a little break and we'll forget what they did and come out with a few more movies, another trilogy a decade or so later. But that's exactly what's going to happen to James Bond if they go the Disney route. It's like, okay, let's have a bunch of different spin-offs. Every character gets their own show. Every villain gets their own show. Then you become another Star Wars. No, I think James Bond needs to be what it's always been, which is an event movie. And I honestly, if they don't do it right, I would rather just James Bond end, and then we can have, a bunch of good movies in that terrible recent movie.
Well, look at all the Batman movies all the Batman TV shows without Batman. They had Pennyworth, Gotham, Batwoman, Birds of Prey. All of the Gotham was pretty good, but all those other ones were like it's doing a Batman series without Batman.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, because there have been spin-off in other media. There's the Moneypenny Diaries, and there was a really good audio drama which was Bond, set in the 50s based on actual Fleming's novels and stuff.
Oh, really?
There's James Bond Jr. There's all sorts of things. But the thing I'm passionate about here is, regardless if they do other things, they've already done that awful reality show thing, right? Regardless if they do all of that, the main character, James Bond 007, needs to be huge event movies at the cinema every 2 to 3 years.
Exactly.
As long as they leave that, you can take or leave the rest of the old stuff they're going to do, because they're going to do it. They'll definitely do it. But as long as they don't mess with the character itself and the movies, that's the key here, I think. And it needs managing. If this is poorly managed creatively, it will be a disaster. It needs somebody at the helm, and I'm actually more worried about that than who's going to play Bond next. I'm actually more worried about who's going to be running the show.
So am I. It's far at this point now, things have drastically changed. And whilst it's always fun to talk about who's going to play James Bond, there's going to be a few key things that are going to happen before they'll get there. And I think it'll all fall down to this guy. This is Mike Hopkins, who is head of Amazon MGM Studios. And he said yesterday, since his theatrical introduction over 60 years ago, James Bond has been one of the most iconic characters in filmed entertainment. He went on to say, we are grateful to the late Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman for bringing James Bond to movie theaters around the world, and to Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli for their unyielding dedication and their role in continuing the legacy of that franchise that's cherished by legions of fans worldwide. We are honored to continue this treasured heritage and look forward to ushering in the next phase of the legendary 007 for audiences around the world. Your thoughts?
Well,
no bad buzzwords in that.
What's his CV? That's not my first thought. Is what's he done before?
Bloke with smug face and sharp suits.
He does look like a Bond villain.
Yeah, and the scary thing about Amazon is they don't actually need to make any money off this because Amazon Prime is basically a loss leader to begin with. So they could do whatever they might be the only company that doesn't have to worry about losing money because Amazon literally owns the internet.
Yeah, you're gonna get Amazon Prime no matter what.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff that you want to hear. We know that he probably didn't write that. He would have just signed a bit of paper at the bottom that says, "Yeah."
No, but there's no bad buzzwords in that. No reinvent for a new audience, right? There's no bad.
Oh God, yeah, that's the worst.
Right. No, that's indicative.
Good point.
I think there's reason to be optimistic at this point.
Well, I just hope they realize that. I hope they realize that. The audience, for the most part, has like such a deep love for this character and this franchise that they can't take that lightly.
I would hope so.
You can piss off the Lord of the Rings fans, but look, we're talking about James Bond fans. That's everybody.
I think I think there is definite cause to be concerned. There's cause to be concerned, and there's cause to be hopeful. Because again, it's another reinvention or rebooting or whatever you want to call it of a classic franchise. And we've seen what's happened to that in literally every case now. However, on the bright side, we do seem to be in a new era where I think, knock on wood, woke is gone to die. Hopefully, that remains to be seen. But if we are headed into a new era, then I'm all for it. But if you wokeify James Bond, worse than you already did. No. I will be cautiously optimistic, but I will expect failure. If that makes sense.
Before we head over to the live chat, I mean, I am more optimistic than not by some way now. After nearly 48 hours, I've sort of come down from being rather furious and really worried. So I'm feeling a lot differently now. But from the position that we're in, obviously, we're some way off. I think we may get somebody appointed by the end of the year to lead things creatively. Whether we've heard of them or not, we'll be able to check out their CV at least and find out who they are, Matt. Which we could be back here telling a completely different story.
In the meantime,
I think we have to get something this year, and they know that because it's already been 4 years since the last film was in cinema. They have to say something this year. But in the meantime, Rabbi, what I'm going to do, I think, is check out this series from MGM. So this is MGM and Amazon, A Spy Among Friends, with Guy Pearce and Damian Lewis. This could be an indicator because, as I understand, MGM, Amazon, this was the first thing that's sort of similar that they put together. It's quite well thought of. It seems a little Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy-esque, which I'd like to think that a new version of Bond would kind of tap into that. So there's that, and there's this too. So this one is still filming. So let me get this right. Young Sherlock Holmes is still filming up and down Britain. This is an 8-part series based on. Guy Ritchie's producing this, and I think he may have directed the pilot as well, but they're based on Andy Lane's books. So these books were published, in the first one around 20 years ago. They're very, very well liked. There's 8 books in the series of young Sherlock Holmes. So whether they adapt, and there's a massive following for these books too, just like the young James Bond books are very popular. So I'm thinking if Amazon adapt these in a faithful way, then this could be an indicator. Because on Netflix, you've got that Enola Holmes thing they do with the girl out of Stranger Things, which is, a load of old nonsense. It's enjoyable enough for what it is, but it's hardly faithful, and it's very, very silly. This looks like a different animal, and Andy Lane is a massive Sherlock Holmes fan, big Bond fan as well.
Andy Lane really knows his Sherlock Holmes. He wrote the Doctor Who crossover, All Consuming Fire.
So if we're fearful of anything they may take to television or anything that they do anywhere really, then this could be an indicator if the Sherlock Holmes fans really take a disliking to this, because those young Sherlock Holmes books, people like them. then I'd say this will be another indicator about whether Amazon can adapt this sort of thing in a relatively sensitive way. I don't think it premieres until a lot later this year, though. It's quite an expensive show. The film gets mostly in Britain, but it's it's unknown cast members. I think there's a couple of big people as villains and stuff.
Guy Ritchie, who has a very clear vision for.
Yeah. I mean, his Sherlock Holmes films were pretty good. I mean, my view on a lot of this stuff now, and it's changed, is I used to want to be a completist with everything. And, you know, if something didn't fit into canon, it used to bug me and all of this sort of stuff. But we're in the era now where we are spoilt for choice. And the way I look at it, you pick and choose. And if they make the Bond franchise huge, and you've got young James Bond, and you've got the Moneypenny Files, and you've got, you know, what M was doing at the golf club last week show and all of this, that's fine. You know, as long as we get the movies and the movies are big, you know, I'll focus on the movies and on the character of James Bond. You know what I mean? And you just pick and choose what you want, right? We're lucky.
Yeah, we just need more of it. I think.
Please, no James Bond sucking a cock. Okay, please, no James Bond sucking a dick, right? And
we need how about an Odd Job origin miniseries?
As long as it's
job. Again, I don't know. That sounds like it could be kind of cool.
We learned how we learned to throw that hat.
No, an Odd Job and Lurch team up. Not Lurch, Jaws. Jaws.
So I am sad because this is considered, isn't it, Keith, to be the setup with Eon and Broccoli and Wilson and Broccoli and Saltzman before it. They used to joke that it was the biggest sort of corner shop family business in cinema. And now, even though they are officially still there, they're not really going to be there day to day. And that's over. And I am sad about that.
Yeah, me too. It's sad. I mean, it is the end of an era. You know, it did well. It lasted over 60 years. You know, that 25 movies. You know, okay, maybe not all of them were great, but most of them were. And you know, it's an achievement. 6 actors we've had so far, and you know, I think Pierce Brosnan said it once: is more people have walked on the moon than have played James Bond so far. So you know, it's very sacred. Those movies will always exist. You know, you'll be able to get them on physical media, plug. But you know, they'll always be there. That's what I love about film, is it is timeless. It will always exist in some form, certainly for the rest of our lifetime, if not generations, you know, ahead.
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy way to look at it.
And we are finally getting the Sean Connery James Bond films on 4K this year as well, probably by the rest.
Fabulous.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. If anybody knew, brilliant. Well, I'll be.
I know they're scanned up to 32K. Like each frame is scanned up to 32K.
Well, they've been future proof, but yeah, the release date is June 3rd.
Yeah.
Region 1 anyway.
Really?
Yeah. I've got quite a lot of content on the channel about. In fact, I've got a whole playlist about James Bond on home media.
Well, we'll get that exact. We'll get the link for the playlist and pop that in the description as well. I can't wait for that. Yeah, I've been holding back on rebuying those. So yeah, bring it on. Jeff Bezos, he wants people to bring it on, so he took to X and posted this. Now, Jeff Bezos is the guy. He's the big guy, isn't he, at Amazon? I've never really been sure who he is, but he mucks about in space too, doesn't he? He does all the things that Elon Musk does. It's just he's the dude
that
artist.
created Amazon out of a garage.
Wow. And he took to X within about 12 hours to very playfully poll his followers, well, the general public too, who'd you pick as the next Bond? Now, I don't genuinely think he's going to go with the consensus from X, but the fact that they've opened up this channel and are willing to have a little bit of fun like this day one, I think that's quite a positive thing. Let's go and find out what people have got to say in the live chat about all of this, though. I am sure there'll be lots of people saying who they want to cast. Any comments about Henry Cavill will be ignored, but apart from that, you can knock yourselves out. Yeah, we're here on the Spacebook Live discussing the Bond bombshell news that the lineage is over. Broccoli and Wilson have gone, and Amazon are in. Amazon MGM Studios are in lock stock with full creative control. Let's throw over creative control to the live chat and see what people have got to say out there on YouTube and on Rumble. Lucy Meow says, yes, 60s are a good time for a restart. A lot of people are receptive to the idea, Matt, that to look at Bond again, you can move him backwards in time, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think... I think things have changed now to the point where if you go back now, it's probably going to be a little bit... It's literally too late. Like, they should have done it a long time ago, and so...
Yeah.
Or they should have kept it in the 60s. But, yeah, I think... I mean, I don't know, really. I mean, James Bond has sort of fallen off the cliff for me. So, you know, whatever happens. But I mean, if it gets good again, and they stay out of the whole politics thing, which they started to get into, you know, and just get back into the girls at gadgets and cars and you know, product placement and all that sort of stuff that they started doing.
That's all part of the fun as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember watching the Pierce Brosnan ones and going, oh, what are they going to bring out this year? You know, a new watch and, like,
That's
you know,
right.
a Nokia phone or something
I
like
really
that.
to control the car. I love Pierce Brosnan as Bond. I thought it was just a great Bond.
We need Bond girls with interesting names again.
Yes, I want a hump a lot.
That's a pretty good one. Yes,
Austin Powers, I found a hump a lot.
Yes, Stephen Braddock says they could set it back in the 60s or the 70s. That could make it stylish and relevant, and it could be set in the Cold War with over-the-top villains. I think the villains should definitely always be over the top, and there should be some sort of conflict.
I disagree. I think while that's a great way of examining the character and way of going, I think Bond has to be contemporary.
I want to see Mike Myers with Dr. Evil and James Bond. That would be awesome.
Mike Myers for Q, I say. Let's have a middle-aged Q again. That would be.
I would have a Bond Austin Powers crossover.
Yeah, as long as
that'd be redonkulous.
As long as Mr. Bigglesworth is there.
Craig Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
Bezos paid $1 billion, says PD Rich. Yeah, I thought I'd said that. Yeah, I thought I'd seen that. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's nice. Nice if you've got it spare down the back of the sofa.
And the return, if they do it right, the return on investment, you know, would be there if they do it right.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
What they want. Do they want to have a huge success? They can have it.
That's right.
They really can. It's at the it's right there. They want to make everybody else look stupid. They can have it.
JFO is in with a Bond pick, and says Fabian Frankel could be good, who played Kristen Cole in House of the Dragon. I can't.
Oh yeah, I can see him.
Maybe
I can certainly see him.
They could work with any young, exciting actor in there. Ideally, in their 30s, I think would be the best. Somebody could grow with the part.
Around 40 is the perfect age.
Whoever plays it next, I think it has to play.
40s, I think.
Has to play it.
Yeah.
But I think whoever plays it next has to play it for a minimum of 10, ideally 15 years. So I'd rather see somebody in their early to mid 30s at the latest who could stay there until they're 50 if they look after themselves.
I think
they're going to start doing origin stories and shit like that, and I don't want to see that. You know, I want him. I don't want an origin story. Already being a professional, I want him to be a professional already. I don't want to learn how he learned to do this and how he learned to do that.
We already
it's like, my
one.
first kill. You know, it's like, I don't give a shit.
Well, I don't mind that.
Michael
It's the
Wilson
job.
always said
it's the job, not the.
Bond was a veteran. Michael G. Wilson always said that Bond was a veteran, so it had to be. You know, Daniel Craig was 38 when he took over the role, and
it wasn't the idea, isn't it, that he leaves
but they started him from scratch, didn't they?
Yeah. It's we learned why he became the way he was. So basically, it was a 2-part origin story.
Yeah, but one part was unnecessary and shit, and the other part was awesome.
It was misjudged, wasn't it? The second one, but Casino
totally
Royale.
Unnecessary and shit. But like that's the time we saw Bond Begins, right? It was an experiment and it was over.
Yeah.
And,
the only time, really.
Right. And then we went to Casino Royale. It was an old Bond who was like over the hill, right? Who'd just been shot, who's trying to be out the game.
Right.
Who gets brought back in. And then the next two movies, again, really said nothing new, while this one really pushed the franchise forward. So, yeah, I would love to see the Danny Boyle version. I have no idea what that was. Yeah, I would love to know what they created.
Maybe they could tempt Danny Boyle back. I don't know what he thinks of streaming platforms and things like that, and streaming giants buying up everything. But it'd be interesting to find out. Mark Milford said, "I wonder if it was of the period made like Mad Men, and don't apologise for the behaviour."
Exactly. That's exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, right. But again, I see that as a TV project. I see that as a big budget TV project. Like an 8-part miniseries. I think that would be really, really good. But like, they splash money on it. Like they splash money on like these big budget shows.
There you go. I don't want them using Bond as a way to comment on current day.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh well.
Unless
really.
Not woke, then they can do it as much as they like.
Not cultural movements, certainly. I think perhaps changing attitudes can be fun. Like fish out of water stuff's always fun.
GoldenEye was. I mean, GoldenEye was that. You had your first female M, and she dresses him down and says that he's a dinosaur of the Cold War. And,
right.
But again, they did it without betraying the character.
It was very canny, and it was very confident as well in the identity of that character, and lean right into it. Don't apologize for who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it was also excusable because that's one of the best Bond movies ever made.
Yeah.
The less said about the 3 that followed it, the better.
Yeah.
Stephen Braddock says they wanted to retire. I didn't know they were so old. I don't blame them. Let's hope Amazon showed them a good plan for them to hand it over. I think we can only hope.
And they're saying the right thing, and they're very deferential and respectful to the Broccoli's and to where it's coming from. So they're saying all the right things right now. Where's it going to go? Who the bloody knows?
Yep, exactly.
Apparently, MGM has Bill and Ted, Candyman, Christmas Story, G.I. Joe, The Pink Panther, Poltergeist, RoboCop, Rocky, Species, Stargate, and Terminator. I know the Stargate fans are beside themselves that they've had Stargate for such a long time and done so little with it. It is pretty criminal.
In the same universe.
Well, I think the problem with I think the problem with Stargate is it became so oversaturated. How many different series did they have at the same time?
That HBO series was the best, though.
3.
Okay, you want to put Bond in a cinematic universe? You put it in a cinematic universe with like the Saint and the Prisoner.
There you go.
And what are you going to do with the Terminator franchise? It's already been killed 4 times.
Yeah.
Having said that, I hear that anime thing from a few months ago was quite good, but I can't go near anything Terminator. They've completely turned me off.
Dan, Candyman Christmas Story. I want to see that.
Yes.
Real legs. Lamps.
It is true that if you say Michael Bublé's name 3 times, he appears. So
I hate Candyman.
They could do a Mr. and Mrs.
Use Candyman from the Doctor Who series.
There you go. Candy Kitchen.
People are really bitten. People have been really bitten by current year over the last 2 to 3 years, and I think it's going to take a long time for some of us to get back from that place.
2 to 3,
as woke 10. Dies. Yeah, maybe 10. Garbage says tomorrow Amazon will release a statement. We are aiming this at a new model. It's like people are prepared for the worst possible case scenario, and that's never been the way that I podcast. It's not where my mindset's at. This may end up being a complete disaster. None of us know, but I would rather, particularly,
Dan, this could be another Rings of Power. And that's
as long as he doesn't have to go and assassinate the American president,
Since it's probably, I think we're a minimum of 3 years away from seeing something. And so I'd rather spend the next 3 years having fun and speculating in a relatively optimistic way, and then take every announcement, like head creative, just taking that for what it is. And if there comes a point where I'm out, then I'll adjust my expectations accordingly, and I'll file it away and do as Keith says. I'll just go back and watch the old stuff. It's fine.
And Keith is making me very jealous with that set in the background, because I did not get that set because I was beyond broke at the time. I got the very boring white set.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful set. I love this set.
Although it's dropped in price now on Marketplace if you want to get it. But no, they had that, which was awesome, and then they had the later set, which is just white with all the movies in a keep case, and it's the most boring thing
It came
ever.
with a couple of free areas for you to put the later installments into.
Yeah, Skyfall, I think, right, Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one goes.
It had a little slot for Spyfall, right.
Skyfall, but obviously it doesn't have the last two films.
That was a sad time for Bulls Trek. They had that and the Halloween set at the same time. I couldn't afford either, and now they're all.
I wanted the Halloween one. Yeah, I really wanted that. You can't get that now.
They're both out of print. Well, Halloween is cheaper now because of the 4Ks. That James Bond set, you can get it on Marketplace for about $200, but it's but they replaced it with just a plain white set. Which it's actually pretty cheap. That's the one I have, but it's the most low effort Blu-ray collection case I've ever seen.
I can't bring myself to buy that either. That's why I've been waiting for any 4Ks. There was a couple of steelbooks out a couple of years ago because Keith showed me the Dr. No one. I think you made a video about it, didn't you, Keith? And I nearly bought those, but I'm not a steelbook fan either. I'd rather have just a nice.
No, I bought it.
Release.
I got it for like $80 for 24 films. But it's the exact. As awesome as that looks, this one is the exact opposite. It's horrible.
Yeah, they've released and re-released it so many times. It's.
Lucy Meow says that Austin Powers was more Bond than the latest Bond films. I'm not sure I'd agree with that, but they were certainly a lot more fun than the recent Bond films, and we do need to pivot back to fun. Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, for me, obviously, Casino Royale, amazing, but the 4 films that followed, I would argue that the last 4 Mission Impossible films have been better, and that's a very.
I agree 100%.
To say as a Bond fan, it's very controversial.
Although the last Mission Impossible movie was shit, I hate to say.
I haven't seen it yet.
I was so gutted. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say all I know is like Spectre. It took me, I think, 4 tries to actually get through it without falling asleep.
It's so boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole Blofeld adopted brother and Quantum being part of Spectre and all
convoluted.
of that was awful.
I was there all along.
It retrospectively ruined what came before it. And also in the last 2 films, they wasted the character of Blofeld, and the organization of Spectre was completely wasted in those last 2 films. It was like, that's what everything should have been leading to, and it should have been epic. They should have essentially remade Majesty's again, on a Majesty's Secret Service. They should
give us a megalomaniac and henchman. That's what I want.
Yeah,
well, and they kind of look like they were doing that
in a volcano.
But it was just
lasers with sharks with lasers.
Yes,
exactly.
All I want is a shark with a friggin' laser.
Whatever her name was, Dr. Snow or whatever her name was.
Madly
it screwed up the character.
Yeah,
and the whole thing, it was just like it all fell apart. I'm
sorry.
Well,
part of the problem was, and again, huge respect to Barbara Broccoli, but she did give Daniel Craig a lot of creative control. He was the first actor out of all the Bonds that was actually a producer, because of how well Casino Royale did. And the thing is, I'm not necessarily sure that what Daniel Craig wanted to do with the character was necessarily the best thing. Yes, awful. He had an arc. Yes, all of that, but it moved away from what the character was.
Remember when it was just controversial because he was blonde?
Yeah, well, that was the least of the problems in the end, wasn't it?
Nobody cared about that.
And don't get me wrong, I liked Daniel Craig as, I mean, I still think Casino Royale.
I liked him as an actor, but as a producer, and a creative force, he was a cock.
Yeah.
You can't unsee that picture of Daniel Craig in the dress with makeup. After you've seen that, you never see him the same way again.
Was that the director's
the other thing I've got to say about Daniel, he was not only was the only actor to be the producer, but he was the only actor to be lucky enough to do the gun barrel fresh for every film. And in my opinion, he did not nail it. He did not nail the gun barrel. I honestly think all of his there's I can nitpick a flaw with every single one of them. It was like,
even in Casino Royale, Keith, you didn't.
Well, no, I mean, that was part of the narrative, so it was a bit different.
It was an interesting take on it, but it wasn't iconic, right? You
exactly.
That one again,
exactly.
Right? I like
Casino was the best one he did, but the one for No Time to Die was awful. We had the tux and everything, but the actual. They took the blood away, and it was like, what the hell? What is this?
Bring back the blood.
That's what they need to go back to, right? That's how it needs to open up.
Yeah.
You need to go with a traditional gun barrel sequence. You have to say, we're back.
Yeah. All the
and opening titles that have silhouetted women doing gymnastics. We need that again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sexy
more
type.
birds. Yeah.
James Bond Red Band. I reckon that'd be brilliant if that was actually more adult, like just blood and gore and stuff. More
Red blood.
Tarantino.
James Bond Red Blood.
That'd be updated.
Yeah,
the possibilities.
I think James Bond being suave, being cool, being so. Again, all the terrible things that Keith pointed out before, but also very, very sexy and charming.
Yeah.
I would like to see a charming, cool Bond.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he's a gambling, hard drinking, womanizing assassin, but he's also incredibly stylish and likes the finer things in life. I mean, that's what the character is.
Finer things in life as delivered by Amazon, I suppose. James Bond has a new.
Well, if MI5 are paying for it, or MI6 are paying for it, then fair enough.
If that's not a clumsy link, I don't know what is. So yes, James Bond has a new home. Amazon, MGM Studios, and new creative controllers. Hopefully we'll get some word on who will be appointed to lead it on a day-to-day basis. But until then, we'll be guessing and we'll be bracing ourselves for the worst, but maybe for the best. And if the worst does happen, we know what we can do with it. We'll get rid of it the way the Bond. Would.
Great scene. That's an epic scene.
Let's we haven't got all the details yet. It's still coming in. I'm sure that when we do know more, we'll be back to give you our thoughts and to take yours too. But James Bond absolutely will return. I can't wait. It's far too long in between these films. Just give us more as soon as possible, and I'm a happy camper. Yes, James Bond will return, but playtime is over for us for another week here at the Spacebook Live. What a fun! Another fun time was had by all. How are your balls bearing up, everybody? Everybody's fine. Thanks for sticking with us. We've had some great comments there in the live chat. I think it's been a lot more positive than they were expecting from us. It's been a lot more positive than I was expecting. If I'd have done this show on Thursday, I think it would have been a lot more furious.
Agreed.
Maybe a little faster. Yeah. I'm in a better place with it now, but by all means, I know that results are going to vary to that. So let us know how you feel in the comments section too about not just the news, but our takes on it takes on it as well. Keith, I know you've got to head off, mate, but remind people where they can find you, what you do, and where you do it.
Yeah, sure. Home Media Minefield on YouTube, and Home Media Minefield on the social medias as well, except X, which is Home Media Mine for some really annoying reason. So you can find all my sort of Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, all of that stuff, and there's a lot of Bond content on there. And if you want to see some of my creative work, go to British Isles, EYLES, as in my last name. And there's some short films that I've made. And I need to give a good plug as well to our good friend Ian David Diaz. Rebecca Gold, season 1 of the web series is on YouTube. I play a character called Hamilton in that. And we're currently filming season 2 as well, literally. It was filming this past week, and it should be out.
I'm really genuinely excited. I have to say,
so there you go.
Oh my.
Keith is a scary badass on Rebecca Gold.
He really is.
Yep.
I didn't believe it was the same person.
There you go. There I am.
I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited for Ian. Obviously, get well soon, Ian. We've got a man down. He's not a poorly. He's a poorly guy at the moment. So hope you're feeling better soon, mate. And we can't wait to see. And excellent stuff, Keith. We'll make sure there's links in the description. If you drop me a link to your playlist as well, I'll make sure the right one's in there too, so people can go and binge watch all the best bits of Keith's Bond coverage there at Home Media Minefield. Everybody, so go and follow him everywhere but X, as it turns out. Thanks for getting up, Matt. How have you been, mate? I know you had to drop a family member off somewhere, wasn't it? But you're back now. It's the morning for you. What's your viewing? What's your pile looking like for today? You're going to be watching anything, or you're going out to spend some time with the dog?
I've had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes on.
Amazing!
I really like
is
that
it?
movie.
I really want to. I've got it on 4K, and I've been wanting to play it. It's 2.5 hours long, so it's
I do wish they'd make films shorter.
Well, you know what? I've been grabbing the ones that go for 60 minutes to 90 minutes lately. So
no, it's a really good movie, though. It's the only franchise that goes back to the 60s that never again fell off the edge.
I kind of was thinking the other day, I'd love to go back to the original makeup and everything. I want them to do that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I mean, the way they structured these new movies, they could easily do a remake of the original Planet of the Apes now, because in the first movie they talk about some astronauts that are lost in space.
Right. Well, they have plans. There's plans for 9. There's plans for 3 trilogies.
I can see it. I can totally see it. It's this is really working, what they're doing. So and also this had a no-name cast, and they were fantastic.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Great stuff. We'll enjoy that, Matt, and let us know what you think. Funny enough, I've decided that's going to be the first 4K that I buy as well. So maybe we'll get together and do a Planet of the Apes show and review that.
There's an audio commentary on it as well, so I'm excited.
Oh,
I haven't got it yet.
I've got the special edition without the special effects as well. So it's all the original actors without their
that's cool.
green screen.
Without the dots.
Nice.
Yeah, with all the dots.
Dots on their heads. Gary, again, another cap, another day, another live stream. Thank you
Dan.
for
it's
your
always
company.
an honor to be here. I mean, you can see me sometimes on the Birthday Boy John Yulden Sci-Fi Chronicles channel, and looking forward to
Birthday Boy. I bet he's in the right state about now. Face down in the remains of
Great seeing you, Gary.
Hooters, maybe before they close.
Always a great pleasure to be with you, Keith. This has been great.
I wouldn't go to Hooters in the UK, that's for sure.
What are you trying to say? They all look like Sheridan Smith.
They must be real, okay?
The Rabbi from Another Planet, of course. Thank you again, mate, for coming on. You got it out of your system. I thought you'd be slight in this, but you're very similar to how I am about it all.
I'm like, isn't it? Because it's just Sabbath, right? So you're offline for 25 hours, and you think about stuff, and you're like, well, there's reason to be optimistic, right? And there really is. It's like, it could be shit. It could be our worst fears, right? And all our knee-jerk reactions might be great. We've danced this dance before, but maybe not. It's a different world. I mean, it is a different world now than it was a few weeks ago. And it's gonna get a lot crazier. And it's never the woke shit's never coming back. Like, because America is never going left again. It's crazy. It's firstly, they had all this money that was going illegally into like leftist campaigns, and all the rainbow shit totally funded by like these weirdo programs going from the US.
Yep.
And secondly, the Democrats are crazy. They argue everything that everybody hates. Like, let's protect the IRS.
Rabbi, I've just seen before we came live, about an hour before we came on, I've seen that a key figure in the British identity politics movement is now claiming that it's all gone too far and this is not what so even this nutcase, a real nasty piece of work is trying to sort of rewrite things now and make it look like it wasn't me. I was never part of it. So it's nauseating, but that's a real indicator that there's going to be no way back for her or for any of them.
I want certain inquiries with all of them.
So do I.
What we said was going to happen, right?
Good point,
everybody would deny it.
Excellent stuff. Chris, the mighty Bowles trick, and Frank, thank you again for another cracking show. You've got any videos cooking? Anything you want to tell us about?
We will be laughing RTD and Dr. Nutty out of the building in a few months, so we're going to have fun with that. That's about it. Hashtag help Frank, and that's it.
Yeah. We're going to try and tempt you onto Type 40 at some point. I think that could be fun. I know.
Do you like yelling?
We'll all put our ear defenders on.
If
you want to hear a good, unhinged, lengthy rant, go to my stream I did tonight, where boy, do I tear apart that woman who wrote the Radio Times article.
Oh God, that one.
Oh, Rabbi, I meant to say. I meant to plug. Sorry, are you live streaming tomorrow? Do you want to plug your stream? What time is it?
Yeah, I'm live streaming tomorrow. There you go. Find me at the Rabbi from Another Planet. You could look. Yeah, there you go. Oh, at the Beacon on Twitter, X. That too.
I got tired last week and forgot the name of John's channel. Never mind. Yes, this is how it gets. Thank you again, Chris. Thank you, Rabbi. Gary's popped off, but he'll probably pop back on any second now. In fact, he might already be back now because he's having problems with his signal there. Hopefully, I'll make it back on. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. You can find me on X mostly, and now and again on Instagram as the Spacebook, where I'm wheezing and groaning and ranting and raving about all things geeky in movies and streaming and TV. Mostly stuff from the past. But I'm starting to talk about stuff from the present a little bit more now, and comics as well, and a little bit of politics here and there, and some family stuff. But generally speaking, it's more of the same. They're just in text form on X. So come and connect with me if you'd like to hear some more or see some more or bring me up on some of the nonsense I've come out with on this edition of the show. Maybe get some directions to the nearest Hooters before they disappear completely. You can thank us later. Okay. Is Gary back? I think he is back in the building for the sign-off. Thank you, everybody in the live chat. We've got some more comments. People talking about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. My God.
Oh, no.
Just don't mention that name. James O'Brien, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Is this one of those kill, marry, or whatever things? Is that what people are doing? I don't know. Baby. I think I'll leave them to it. Justice for Frank. Save Frank. Our thoughts are with Frank wherever he is and whatever he's doing. Things could get a bit ugly. But you've been watching the Spacebook Live on YouTube and Rumble here as ever. We'll meet you back here for more again next time. Of course, in the meantime, check out, if you want the Doctor Who stuff, people asking about Doctor Who there, if you want the Doctor Who stuff, you can get our reactions there, our on-the-night reactions near enough to the Sun article and the fallout to that with exclusive info as well as given to me, to us, from our sources at Type 40. If you haven't seen it, get over there on the Type 40 Stop Press live stream. I guarantee it'll be worth your time. We have a laugh there too, I promise. You can get all the previous editions of the Spacebook Live here on this show as well. There's Teleport now too. That's coming to this channel very, very soon. I've got to give Chris that little bit of info there, haven't I, before we shoot off. Okay, I think that about covers it. We will thank you, everybody, for your time. Fantastic comments. We do appreciate it. Where's it going to go with Bond? Look to the past. Look to the 60s. Look to those values. Oh, if only Sid would have been James Bond. Yeah, that's another week in Geek, nicely burned up, I think. But we'll see you next time.
Instead, we got Charles Hawtrey.
Bye, everyone.
Oh no.